Well. Good evening to everyone. Welcome to Live with Hanifa Nayela. I am Hanifa Nayela. And today is Friday. And as usual, we are here at 5 p.m. I actually have a guest for you guys. I'm probably going to have guests for the rest of the month because I have some things I'm trying to tackle. And it just kind of takes a little bit off of me to do so. And these two are no different, are no strangers to the platform. They've been here before. I got a lot of feedback on the conversation we had. I think I may have even gotten them a client or two just from that conversation. So, and that's what it's all about. So I'm super excited to have this conversation with this powerful team. Before I do that, I'm gonna get in quickly to just some housekeeping really quickly. So if you are just tuning in for the first time, make sure that you subscribe, you share. If it's something that you think that other people may benefit from, make sure you share. Make sure you hit the like button if you are watching. It's free to do so, no charge. If you want to follow me on social media, you can follow me at the Real Hanifa Nayela on Instagram. And if you're feeling generous, because usually people ask, I usually put my cash app at the bottom of the screen. It is $ Hanifa Nayela. Feel free to drop some coins. I will not be mad at you. Okay, and so I am thinking I don't have to put my trigger warning up today because I don't necessarily feel it that we may. I don't think so. But um so that's pretty much it. And then let me just make sure that I acknowledge people who are here. So far, we only have Inne that's letting us know she's here. But if you're joining us, if you're coming in, make sure that you guys let me know you're here so I could give you guys your shout out. And yeah, and we can have a conversation. And if you have any comments or questions, put them in the chat. I'll make sure that I get to the questions, and so that Monsha and Washa can try to answer them for you guys. So, Mr. and Mrs. Edu, how are you guys doing?
We're doing great. How you doing?
Fabulous. How about you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. It's been a little rough this past couple of weeks, but I'm okay. I'm hanging in there. I am super excited to have this conversation because the last time we were here, there's been a lot that has happened. So, quick question. The last time we were here, we talked about Kevin Samuels. Was he still alive? He was, right?
Yeah, must have been,
Yeah, I
yeah.
believe so.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think he was.
absolutely.
I think he was. Okay. All right. So tell me what's been up with you guys. What's been going on? First of all, tell us who you are and what you do. I need to start off there. Tell us who you are and what you do for the people who may not know.
Yes. So, we are Moncho and Nawasha Edu. Um, we are best friends. We're a married couple of 23 years, and we happen to both be clinical therapists, counselors, coaches, and we are the co-creators of a culturally based counseling firm that started in 2007 called the Acoma House Initiative. And it is culturally based counseling, coaching, and consulting for individuals, couples, and families. We're the authors of a few best selling relationship books, and we're the co creators of an international um, relationship academy called the Black Love School that services Black singles and couples from around the world, 11 different countries. And I think we're most known around the world as, if anybody knows us at all, we're most known for being the co-creators of Acoma Day, which is a culturally based alternative to Valentine's Day that is 22 years old. And right now it's being celebrated by pockets of Black people in about 16 countries around the world, the last count we had, accurate count. So we do love work, we do relationship work, we do family work, we do individual work. We are counselors, coaches, therapists, and that's what we do. And, we love love. And so that's it. Um,
Okay. In a nutshell.
yeah, that's who we are. So,
Okay.
yep,
So I know it's the last quarter of the calendar year. What
yeah.
have you guys been up to? What are you guys focused on in your practice? What have you been up to? What changes or adjustments have you guys made going
Mhm.
through this last quarter?
This last quarter is always an interesting one because this represents, the fall season is kind of that you reap what you sow season. And I think that people get really reflective around this time of year. So, what we see is a focus on knowing what you want coming into the next year. So, I think that kind of the seeds are planted for that during this time. And also in the Black Love School, this is the time that we focused on the other. So we use the acronym for SOUL in all of our work, which stands for Self, Other, Understanding, Love, Legacy. And there are some times that you're working on yourself in relationship. There are some times that you're focused on the other in the most productive way, though, not in deflecting, not in the other person has a problem, but really, how am I going to serve the other person? Has this person influenced me? And I think that comes up at this time of year because of the holidays and just so many anchors that we have
Mm-hmm.
around going back to school, Halloween, Thanksgiving, what that really means for the other people that we sometimes don't see often, but they have very powerful, big positions in our stories. So that's what we see a lot, is that people are very reflective at this time of year. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I think a little bit of planning. Around this time of year, people get those, the memes go up, the conversation like there's this many days to the end of the year and this many weeks until 2023. And it happens all the time that you go through these phases of birth, renewal,
Mm-hmm.
a peak season, and then this kind of death for rebirth. And I think that people definitely feel that natural rhythm also in their relationships with themselves and with other people.
Okay, okay. So I have a few questions. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna jump right in, but let me make sure I acknowledge the people that just came in. Hey sis, thanks for coming through. And we also have the wireless woman. She says, "Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo." Peace to you, says. Thanks for coming in. All right, so I'm just gonna jump right in, right? So there's just been a lot of conversation. The conversation is still going on as far as and I've changed my tone a little bit. I don't necessarily call it a gender war anymore. I think there's some other things going on. I don't, I don't necessarily think that's what it is. It's just too many things at play that's kind of like feeding it. But I know you guys work with married couples or couples who are interested in being married as well. Do you work with both?
And
Yeah,
singles.
and families and children.
Okay,
And yeah, we're therapists.
in general.
Don't
Okay.
confuse us with these YouTube people.
Thank you. Thank you.
That
Okay,
whoever
so
you are, a relationship is the most important thing. So even if that is first understanding your relationship with yourself, or understanding your relationship with any other person. And for us as Indigenous, with an Indigenous foundation, so we have a Black, Indigenous, African foundation,
okay.
that means your relationship with anything else too. So this is where what some people call esoteric comes in, because it could be your relationship with your past, your relationship with your future, your relationship with nature.
Nature,
So these
your
things
community.
are real in that we're constantly exchanging and relating to something at some frequency. I think a lot of times it stands out that we do a couple work because we are a couple ourselves, but truthfully, everyone has a relationship that they want enhanced, and that's what we help people do.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for clearing that up. Okay, so tell me what in your work, what are we getting right?
Not a lot.
Okay, yes, please. Let's talk about that first.
Yeah,
Like,
that's an excellent question.
yes.
We're not getting a lot right.
Okay.
We're really, as and us loving Black people sincerely, like really loving us. I'm saying that not from a pessimistic
Mhm.
standpoint, but just a reality standpoint. We're in the era of illusion with social media, so everybody's fronting extra hard, right? But we are the most unmated people on earth, right?
Mm.
So we're like the most unmated people on earth, Black people in the Western world, which
Is that men
include,
and women?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, black people. And
In
it
general.
also includes children, which
Okay.
don't get brought into the conversation much. We are the most, literally, statistically, the most unmated people on the face of the earth. It's not a jab to men, it's not a jab to women, it's not a disrespect to children. It's an analysis of like where we really are at. And so a couple of things we're not getting right. Number one, we fronting really hard like we're trying to figure this relationship thing out, but we're really afraid, we're really skilled, and we're scared to death, right?
I agree.
Then we're also not listening to the right people. We are this is the one area of life where we follow people who echo our talking point, not people who produce results. So
Mm.
like in financial stuff, we you know, you will disengage from a broke person quick who talking about money. In health, you will disengage from an unhealthy, fat, out of shape person who talking about fitness, wellness, or health. And you could go down the line in every category, but when it comes to relationships, as long as somebody echoes your point, you will roll with
Mm.
them.
And it's normally a pain point.
And it's usually a pain point, right? And so you
Mm.
had mentioned at the outstart our brother Kevin Samuels, who's now in the ancestral realm, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
um, as a married couple, as therapists, as people who help bring solutions. It is insane to consider people like this a relationship expert,
Mhm.
because to be a relationship expert, first of all, you got to be in a relationship. Then you have to provide solutions, not just conversation. Everybody
Mhm.
is talking about
Mhm.
relationships, and so now we don't even know who to follow. But I tell my dear brothers, I just finished last night, just finished a cycle of rites of passage that I have called the Coma King for Black
Mhm.
men. It's about emotional fitness and social responsibility. So the group of men I had, we went 14 weeks. So we're going to take some time off and then reboot in the winter. Now Nawasha's Coma King Queen will be starting up. So we alternate with that service. It's one of the things that we provide. But I always say this, like, you're going to end up where the person you are listening to is, right? And there isn't a comparable thing like this relationship conversation, because it is, although people front and they working on their degree or their money, whatever, it is
Mhm.
the most important thing in our lives. Our
Mhm.
relationships at the end of our lives. Nobody cares about your degrees, nobody cares how much money you made. And for you, what is the most important thing is what were the quality of your relationships while you were alive, and what is the legacy that you're passing on to the people who love you and the people who were in your life. We really suck at a lot of relationships,
Mhm.
parenting,
Mhm.
friendships, but especially the intimate relationship. We are about to hit 8 out of 10 of us are unmated. Nowhere else in the world, you can look in the world and say people are third world or whatever kind of white supremacy label we put on stuff. Um, but those people know how to mate.
Hmm.
We trying to break generational curses and all these other psycho things that we saying to ourselves that have no real merit. It's just like, if I get rich enough or if I take enough Instagram pictures, I'm breaking generational curses. The number one curse on us is that our families are broken. So
Agreed.
if you're not doing that, or your health, there's no way you breaking the generational curse. It's just
Mm.
no way. There's no way you're doing it. And so we're not listening to the right people.
Mhm.
We don't know the difference of who to listen to. And that's why I made at the outstart, we could put our information in this chat. Please go and check us out, not for the sake of purchasing anything. We have tons of books and other programs and the Black Love School and all kind of things, right to passage. But understand that who you're talking to is not. Everybody talks about relationships now.
Mhm.
And now even a lot of couples talk about relationships. They haven't been in relationships long. They don't really have solutions. What they're doing is taking advantage of the fact that a black man and a black woman sit before you, and they slick talking and beautiful or whatever, everybody start listening, even if they don't got to answer the first, even if their relationship is fronting.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen 1,000 couples come and go in the 23 years we've been together, just not even talking about relationships, but just being together, because it's one thing to be together, but then it's another thing to be happy. And to be happy is
Mm.
not to be perfect, but it's to really be best friends and enjoy each other and grow from the relationship you're having. Like, I think we ain't getting that right. And 7 out of 10 of us, 7.8 out of all 10, 7.8 out of 10 Black people in Canada, the UK, the United States, the islands, the whole Western world, right? We deal with Black singles and couples from all over the planet are unmated. No group of Black
Mm.
people or no group of other people are like that in the Western world. So we've been affected by something. We're pretending that we know what it is, but very few of us can produce a result that shows that we actually know what it is. And
So that's what I want to ask Mancho, because I'm about to ask you why that is. Why are those numbers so high in particular, particularly to Black people? And you're talking globally at this point, and worldwide. And I'm like, okay, so then what is the issue? What is the common denominator if we're not just talking within this society? We're talking in other societies in general. What is the issue?
I think the issue is where people are suffering from oppression. You are not going to be able to have successful relationships. So now some of that comes because you're afraid, you're fighting, you're not at ease, you're not yourself, you're not using any of your cultural, and by cultural I mean the wisdom, the thought patterns, the belief systems that actually have things work in your life. You're not using any of your cultural norms and understanding or processes or
Mhm.
technologies. So what happens when you have been oppressed, and this is really, the Western world, definitely the Americas, the Caribbean,
Yes.
places on the continent, when you have a challenge with being yourself, it's going to be very difficult for you to be in relationship. So this is one of our main issues. I think where we are definitely in this North American Caribbean culture, but especially the North American culture, we also, part of our oppression is in the amount of distraction that we're able to have. So we can do a lot of things. We can busy ourselves in ways that maybe some other places can't or they don't. And that also adds more dysfunction to actually relating to another person. So, in a short answer, it's our depression and our forced removal from our truth and our culture.
Mhm.
But in the details, that looks like us having dysfunction, or our mothers and aunties and grandmothers having dysfunction.
Mhm.
So then telling us to not get married and to go to school and to buy our own homes, right?
Yeah.
Because when you teach someone from fear and from your dysfunction, your advice is different, as opposed to when you know the truth and what works, you tell someone how to replicate that. When you don't know the answer, you tell someone, don't do what I did, which that is actually infinitely going in another direction. But
Mhm.
that, infinitude is destruction, right? So now when that happens, no matter what we tell our children, they're looking
Mhm.
at us like, well, I definitely don't want the life that you have. So I'm not going to
That's
listen to
true.
what you're saying, and I'm going to go in any other direction. And I think that we have a blessing in that we're super connected. That could be something that we could be doing right because we want to have a conversation. But I think we take it for granted. So the conversation ends up, like how you said, as
Mhm.
it's positioned as a gender war
Yeah.
instead of an actual opportunity for all of us to put our minds together to come up with a solution. So I think we have to recognize what colonization looks like, or the effects of it, what it looks like today, as opposed to what it looked like before. Some of those things might not be happening before. Some of them are still happening, but some of them might not be happening
Most of them are.
like they were. So
Yeah.
we're confused because something doesn't look the same way. Much like we get confused about culture. We think culture is our language and our clothes and our food and those types of things, but those are the effects of our culture. Our culture is our instruction, our values, and our beliefs. But we look at things from a superficial place right now because that's just
Mhm.
how we've been taught and conditioned to look at things.
Can
So I
you can you give me an example, if you don't mind? Like, give me one example of a way that colonization affects our relationships today.
I
one of
give it.
my one of my
Okay.
favorites, and I'm saying favorite in air quotes, is when people say they want to be romantic. That's the ultimate colonization, is that you don't have a reference for love outside of Rome. You don't have a reference for love that is your indigenous culture. So not only are we speaking in English, but just what we even mean by some of the choices that we make in a colonized language. Even in a colonized language, you can say a little bit closer to what you mean. But I think that the epitome of love is romance, is proof that we're colonized.
And I would say an example of that is another a very tangible. I love the romantic one, and all words that represent falling in love, and all of these psychotic terms that have no real meaning.
Mhm.
Love languages, I know a lot of people's on that, um, and everybody got their love language and ain't been in love in years, so you need a new language. But I think another thing is we have normalized dysfunction,
Yeah.
and
And
we
celebrating
we've
it.
we've
Yeah.
gone from hiding dysfunction
Mhm.
to normalizing dysfunction to now in a groupthink trauma bond, we actually celebrate dysfunction.
Yes.
So whatever is the most dysfunctional thing, you 400 pounds overweight, go brother, go be yourself. You doing it. Go sister. That's women's empowerment. You are unmated
Mm.
because in every culture in the world, it's an embarrassment to be unmated through the 20 to 60 years old. We marry couples. We
That's
have
true.
married 9 couples, right?
Mhm.
A man reached out to us who was 70 years old looking for his first marriage in ancient cultures, and not just yesteryear, but in righteous cultures. You are shunned for not getting married because marriage is not about making you happy, it's about making the nation better. So for those of us who don't mate, and everybody doesn't mate, I'm not
Ooh, child.
suggesting that everybody is going to, but for look, 80% of us, 80% of us were married during chattel enslavement. Now it's the reverse. We so-called free, and I couldn't have been back in them days and all that kind of stuff that we say, but we're actually worse off. And we all know that we're worse off, but we're all pretending like we're not. Like you don't have the properties that your grandparents had. You don't have the family structure that a lot of times your parents had. If you have a certain age, but we 45 years from 1985 when crack and AIDS came in. So it's a whole group of us that have been born into trauma.
Yeah.
But then there's another group of us that have eased into the acceptance of trauma. And it's not to set trip or anything like that. We all need to get out of trauma, but
Mhm.
we cannot get out of trauma by saying, things like, I got emotional baggage. What you actually have is unresolved trauma. Because say emotional baggage, I don't know if that's supposed to go on a trip with us or should we unpack it or whatever. But when we say I have unresolved trauma,
Mhm.
implicit in it is it needs to get resolved before
Yes.
I can move forward. And
Mhm.
so, this idea, the saddest idea that I see, the world is being run by a group of families, right? The power exchange is it's really like 11, 12 families dominating the world. And Black people don't think they need families. They just think they need the new S class that the Mercedes family is putting out. They just think they need that or whatever, the right kind of lipstick or the right pair of Nikes or whatever. Like if I could just turn up tonight
Yes.
and just enjoy myself. And then we say shameful things like the brother's like, I'm a certain age, I don't have no kids, like that,
Yes.
I don't got no what. Like that's not a badge of honor. That's only impressive to dysfunctional men. But to men who understand legacy, who understand nation building, who understand that we're going to live longer statistically if we
Yes.
have, we're going to have more sex if we have women, we're going to make more money if we have women. But how about the biggest one? We're going to actually live 8 years longer than men who are single statistically, right? And then the one that's most important for me, we're going to have a protection from this global system of racism, white supremacy that is assaulting our people all over the earth, because the family unit is what that system fears. And that's why they're bullish about breaking it up. So all of these things are in play. And because we don't really understand the problem we have, is part of the reason we don't have answers. So our coping mechanism is let's just ignore it. Let's have fun. Let's try to act like us men are together and y'all women are crazy. Let's try to act like the women got it together, but the men are crazy. But look, we are each other.
Yes.
So if you turn a quarter, the heads looks totally different than the tails, but they're the same coin with the same value.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no such thing as a group of men who got it together and the women are crazy. And
Yes.
there is no such thing as a group of women who got it together and the men are crazy. Like you said, if you want to know that we crazy, the concept of a gender war is totally insane.
Insane. Yep.
Every human being is made of a man and a woman.
Yeah.
So if you are having a gender
But I
war,
think
you're actually at war
those
with
terms speak
yourself.
to that. I think
Right.
we
Yeah.
subconsciously put out language that
Mhm.
speaks to what's going on with us internally, even when we're speaking a language that's not our original. So I think that tear that we feel is what we project out, and that's what happens when we're saying we're in a gender war. It's really some of the things that we don't know how to do that get projected onto the other person.
So I have a couple of questions because I jump, Mon should be going in and I just be like trying to catch everything. Okay, so there's a
Nawasha wrote all my notes for me.
or or not no, I shall be dropping them gems too
Yeah,
now.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But
She
delivery
said, take it,
is a
they'll
little
believe it if a
softer,
man
but
says.
yes. You said something. You said marriage is not about making you happy. It's about making the nation better.
Well,
That's
it's not, because I see a lot of people, a lot of so-called, and I see the sister right here, wireless woman, made a good point. She said many people say being married is a European concept and don't see it as honorable anymore.
Yeah, I
And
thought
and
that
and
white people
and
get.
and she also said something else that was profound. She dropping a lot of profound points.
yes, she is. I
White
was getting
people,
there.
white people have unresolved trauma. They victimize and oppress the whole earth and still get married. They get married because they know that's the only way a people can survive. We haven't learned that yet. And to
Mm.
your earlier point, I agree with you. We outlined in our first book, black people didn't always have a marriage contract, but we actually started that before anyone else. So, I see brothers constantly who say, I don't believe in getting married in a white man's court. But then you got a driver's license, a social security number, a bus pass, a
True.
lease for your place where you live, a
Mhm.
car loan, and so you believe in all them other contracts, but you don't believe in a contract that's going to take you into eternity. We as men, and that's no attack on brothers because I love them,
Mhm.
we as men don't value marriage. We're not scared of commitment like some people think. You can always tell when a person doesn't understand what the problem actually is because of what they say. And 9 out of 10 of us don't understand what the problem is. Now, looking at what they do is a whole nother thing, but at least we should all understand what the problem is to the point that we can articulate it, right? And we don't. We so hurt and traumatized. That's not an attack on our people. It's just a wake up call that we are so messed up. Like every time we go on a show, national, international, whatever, when we drop that statistic that 7.8 out of all black people are unmated in the Western world, that's not on a continent and in Brazil, where a lot of black people are, is more black people there than there are here.
Mm-hmm.
That's not in India, where the people are so black that they make my shirt look like Nawasha's skin complexion. That's not there. It's only in the Western world. So what is it that has happened to us here that is making us so far away from ourselves, right? So, when you say that statistic, most people don't even know that. We playing this game and watching YouTubes and
Mm-hmm.
watching videos and stuff, and we don't know that the whole world has circled us around us, and it's a bunch of families. Every time you pay rent, every time you buy a car, every time you eat at McDonald's, whatever you do in your life, you are empowering the family that's actually oppressing you, and you don't think you need a family to
Mm.
you think that a family is too hard. It's too hard to make relationships work. You're going to lose money. You're going to lose freedom because it's 30 men in my inbox. So I know I could just have sex with like at least 20 of them. Everybody has about the same 3 chances at love that you always had. Social media is a real big delusionary tool.
Yeah, I agree.
It makes you think you have more options than you actually have. Yeah, you could hook up.
Mm.
You might get a couple easier one night stands off, but
But the things that make a relationship work are always the things that make a relationship
relationship
work.
work. They
So
haven't changed. So
you might have more
distraction.
visual choices
Yeah.
to swipe left or swipe right,
And it's
or
and it's easier because you can sit on your couch and just, so what you doing tonight?
Well, let's get into those things.
Interesting.
What are
That's
those
very
things?
interesting. What you say?
Look, Mancha is still going.
Look,
No,
we
I
speak to
said
thousands of people
what
and
are
I
those
see these
things?
conversations.
Yeah, you guys said what makes a relationship work is always what makes a relationship work.
Yes.
So what are those things?
We
What
have
makes a
7 basic
relationship work?
skills that you have to have
Hmm.
and that we teach to make a relationship work.
Hmm.
Number one, and especially for the men, because we are going to be the foundation of a relationship. No offense to any women, and we have equality, but
Hmm.
the men are foundation. You got to have purpose, right? Number two, you got to have a conscious courting system, right? How to select, how to mate, how to vet. Number three, you got to learn three-dimensional communication, where you are unifying your thoughts, emotions with your actions and creating a bridge of understanding between the two. Number four, you got to have harmonizing mating styles, because men and women in general are different, but then Mancho and Nawasha are different in specific, right? So you got to know how to harmonize those styles. Number five, you got to have a way to generate and operate and maintain intimacy and sex, because this is the thing that makes the intimate relationship unique from every other relationship. Number six, and the one that wipes most people out, you have to be able to resolve conflict. Every
Whew.
couple, me and Nawasha, whoever it is, about 1 to 3 times a week, a very happy couple is having a conflict. I think we had one yesterday. And then
and we'll probably have one later on
tonight. Yeah, right. And so the most successful couples are having 1 to 3 conflicts a week. But some of
Mm.
these insane couples, they having 7 to 10 a week. In a couple of months, emotionally, they can't withstand. If you having that many buildups without resolution,
Yes.
it's just like, yo, I'm out. Like I'm
Yes.
out. And that's why these relationships last 5 minutes. And then the seventh and final thing is you have to be able to create a legacy of what your relationship will be outside of the two of you, because there is a part. Now, I am not saying that relationships should not make you happy, because I
Mhm.
see a lot of
they should
people. I see a lot of people who
fulfill you.
think they're doing black people justice and say relationships are just about business and they're not about, like, that's ridiculous.
I was
Like
getting
I,
there.
I, I feel like I feel like this. People should stop talking without their mate present about relationships
That's
sometimes.
a good
Because
point. Well,
now, when men are talking to men, that's great. When women are talking to women, there is a space, and there has always been the men's village, the women's village, where we deal with things that are specific to our gender, right? However, when we're talking to the group, and especially when children are present, we're both therapists, and Nawasha is a professor, so she's a teacher and has taught on every level from K to master's degree, right?
mhm,
And it's really important the messagings that we're sending out. Why would you stand before an individual in the pain we're in and say that a marriage doesn't have nothing to do with your happiness? Then why would I do it? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Now, what I'm saying is that it's not only that. What I'm saying is that there is a part of your relationship that is sacred and intimate just for the two of you, not for your parents, your siblings, your children, or anybody else. But then the rest of you, that's about 20% of your relationship, or 25%, let's just say. The
mhm.
other 75% of your relationship is for everybody. And because we've been traumatized, it was during enslavement that we began this legacy. What happened in this house, stay in this house, and this ain't nobody business. We don't have our
Mm,
business all out in the street. That's a
mm.
slavery thing. Because what is a marriage? It's a communal ceremony. What is a wedding? I mean, it's a communal
Yes.
ceremony. What is
Mhm,
a marriage? It is a
Joining families.
communal agreement between two families that are coming together to serve the greater good. We think that this relationship is about making me happy. And as soon
mm.
as you don't make me happy, I'm done with you. It's like it's the same immature mentality that you have with a toy. Mom, Dad, I want this toy because it's on TV. I got
Mhm.
it. Now a new one's on TV. I want a new one. You know what I mean? And it's this when you don't have your culture, which is your group value system, you become emotionally immature. And so now we are emotionally, educationally, economically, physically, socially, and intimately immature, politically,
Mhm,
spiritually, and
mhm.
we're trying to pretend that all I need to do is find the right one. Or when I come out the clouds and decide, brothers is like, it's hard out here. All these damn women want to be in relationships. My G, it ain't hard out here. You just don't know what you're doing and you scared. Then the sisters act like, soon as I get 18 degrees and make 20 billion dollars and come out the sky, whoever gonna be with me got to be
Yeah, yeah.
out. Your ass going to be 60 years old and single and dealing with like a 25-year-old who's going to be tearing up your Mercedes Benz on the weekend, and you can't even chase him to find out where he at with his young girlfriend. Like,
So
cut
I have a question, and I have a
it.
question in the comment section as well. So, wireless woman, she is asking a lot of questions. She said, "Do
Yes,
you think mental health is playing a large role? I know for a fact my ex-husband needed therapy. The issues were bigger than me and the marriage. Many people will not let the village help. So,
right.
do you guys think mental health plays a big role in the collapse of some of our relationships as well?"
I think we need to strive for mental health,
Yeah,
but
that's a
there are
misnomer.
some challenges that are mental disease, mental stresses,
Mental
mental
illness.
disorders, yes, illness. So, but again, how could we not have mental illness with what we have dealt with? So
Correct.
I think the challenge, this is another way that we're suffering. The challenge is something could have happened to our families, our great 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 grandparents, our great great grandparents, our great grandparents, our grandparents, our parents, and us. And we don't have to talk about it. We don't actually have to heal it. And we will just be functional because now someone has let us sit in a movie theater, get a job, buy a house. Like that doesn't clear up the fact that we don't know how to do the seven things that Masho outlined. If your family was struggling and you don't learn how to communicate, because you think that you love someone and feel that you love someone, it doesn't change the fact that you don't know how to communicate or resolve conflict or, stay passionate or you don't know your purpose. All of those things are real. And what happens when you don't know your purpose? It's going to look like mental illness. because you will be out here grasping at anything. You'll be out here distracted, or like many of us, especially Americans, we are in the pursuit of happiness. This is part of the American culture. Whatever's going to make us happy right now, too. Not like happy a year from now. We
Mm-hmm.
have a challenge with delayed gratification. We can't do that. So we're very much emotionally immature. So what happens is, we want something to make us happy right now. When it doesn't, we will shift to the next thing. And this is definitely part of American culture. This is why we scroll the way we scroll, and we tap and we swipe. Everything has to be, I mean, on YouTube, ad is really working if it got you to stay longer than the 5 seconds.
Yeah, yeah,
You are hovering over the skip this ad at
yeah.
2 seconds. You don't even have the 5 second patience. And you're just like, wait, this is the longest 5 seconds of my life. And this is just how we have been
Condition.
raised. So I think that, I don't know if you really, we're probably most kind to ourselves, right? And even sometimes we look at ourselves and know we have a mental illness, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that some of the things, if you look at what they classify as mental illnesses, it is things like depression, anxiety, stress.
Those are
That's
the
what
big
we're all
one.
Yeah.
dealing
Yeah.
with. So
Yeah.
what happens is, you can look at any person who has problems that they don't solve and say they have a mental illness. And
Yeah.
this is
And
just in a resourceful place. You would seek to solve your problems. And like Masha said, in any area, you would go to someone who is successful, and you would say, can you help me? Can you teach me? Can I do what you, can I just look at you and try to figure out that I can do what you can do? But I think when it comes to anything intimate and personal, we are suffering from a lot of the wounds that we got as children, where we didn't feel as powerful and resourceful. So we grow up chronologically, but many of us are saying that, hey, if my mother, my father, or my caregivers and my teachers and my peers couldn't help me when I really, really needed it, I'm not even asking for help at this time. And it's not because people don't want help. It's not, this is the part of the conversation that actually needs to happen, is that we all are suffering, and that suffering doesn't have to continue. Although we have pains and traumas, we do not have to continue to suffer or to inflict the pain on ourselves and each other. And that is the part that, once we recognize that we don't have to suffer, we'll be able to actually change our reality. But if we don't agree, even with our own self, that we are suffering, we will just kind of passively go through life, not even accepting the reality. Because I think a lot of times, deep down, people don't accept it, and this is why there's so much conflict. But we
Mm-hmm.
just go by without doing anything because we feel powerless.
Can you
yeah.
guys tell? Sorry, Monsieur, go ahead.
No, no, I was just going to add to that because Wireless Woman is on fire. I would say to this as your brother, maybe I'm your bigger brother or maybe I'm your little brother. I'm 52 years old. If your husband had mental illness, so did you. Um, if we are Black Indigenous people and we speak English, we got mental illness. We don't know our names, we got mental illness. We don't own anything. We have the same 1% of wealth that we
Mm.
had during slavery. We're mentally ill. Like, and so we have to demystify this term, because what is happening, first of all, it's a misnomer to call it mental health. We're seeking mental health. We don't actually, people like, so you're a therapist, do you think it's mental health? No, I think it's mental illness. We don't want to
Mm-hmm.
use that term, so we're saying mental health as a euphemism that we all understand what we mean when we're saying that. But look
Mm-hmm.
at the term, it's actually the opposite that we're displaying. But mental health is, it comes in as a clinical therapist. I'm telling you this, it comes biological. So it was born into you, like your cerebrum, your vertebral cortex, something didn't develop. 99.9% of the time, that's not what we're talking about. What
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about is social environmental factors that have made us cray cray,
Not be able to function.
right? And so there's no, it is as contagious as COVID or anything else, right? AIDS, whatever, that with SARS, what is the new one? Monkeypox, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
it's as contagious as that. In our cultures, there's no such thing as a person with mental health in our family. What it means is that our family has a mental health issue, and there is an individuality. You ask, what is the example of our colonization and the impact of it? It is the ideology of individuality. You get yours, I'm gonna get mine. You know, somebody else put a good statement in the chat about the idea that we think getting money and getting educated, quote unquote, educated is training. It's not education. It's training. Yeah, some people prefer capitalism over relationships. Being single is more lucrative to some than having a partner. Selfishness at best. I would agree. Statistically, nobody who is single, especially Black people, nobody who is single makes more money than made it people. Now, you can look at
Mm.
the Black billionaires that are in the country. It's about 8 or 9 of them, whatever, you know, and they're all entertainers for the most part. You could say Oprah is not married, but she's been made it for like 35 years. So that really is not an example of that. Kanye, Beyonce, Jay-Z, they billionaires, they married to each other.
Mhm.
Rihanna is made it. You know, we could go down the list of people. Michael Jordan. There is no example of someone who is single getting all the money.
Mhm.
Now we get ready to see what's about to happen to Kanye because he
Mhm.
said something about these Ashkenazi Jews, and they want him to take $1 billion out of a bank. How do you do
Mhm.
that? Now, if he was smart, he's looking to Africa. You know what I mean? And he's
Mhm.
looking to deposit that money somewhere else because without community and family, love has no purpose. It has no deep purpose if it's just a toy that's going to make you happy. You're going to always search for a new toy because there's a bottomless pit, and social media proves it. Some people who hate people, who don't have really no real friends in real life, they on these social media platforms from sun up to sundown. They saying positive affirmations like in your real life you don't have no friends really. Like you just look at me and what I'm eating and look at this dress I got on. Look how fat my ass is. Look at my biceps. Look at my chest. Look at me.
Monica, you said something to that, the
Lonely.
individualism. I don't think that we realize how much the individualistic mindset is affecting us. Like
Yeah.
this alienation, this
Yeah.
separation from community is killing us. I have a
Mhm.
question that's coming up as well, but before I get to Taylor Nubia question, you talked about social, environmental, and I added systemic problems that
Yeah.
we don't want to face, and we don't want to admit that those things have direct impacts on relationships. For goodness
Yeah.
sake, in my head, if they have impact on the community, that means it has impact on your relationships. But what I'm
Absolutely.
realizing is that a lot of our people are trying to ignore that. And this
Right.
is where the so called gender war is happening. We rather fight each other than acknowledge that those things exist, those social, environmental, and systemic problems. And for me, I personally believe it's because it's like facing a giant. It's overwhelming to a lot of people. So we rather just act like it don't exist and actually believe that it's our partner alone.
Right.
That's the problem. That if we
Right.
just make our partner go away, life is just going to be so much more beautiful, if we just get rid of this person. But I wanted you guys, I'm going to let you answer Taylor's question, but I want to get back to the pain points because I need you guys to tell me what the hell are pain points, okay?
Well,
And
I
Right.
actually think that the comment, is it May Bay?
okay, this
My
one.
Bay? Um, the we don't have to continue to
Okay, I
suffer
got you.
because
I'll
some
bring it up.
people like
Uh-huh.
having something to complain about. I think that that is a great point, and that speaks to what you're saying. I think so many times whatever you don't understand does seem like a giant. And
Yeah.
in our work, we call that people want to have a safe problem. People would rather have a safe problem to have, like their partner, even communication. These things are the issue that you make into the giant because you really don't want to address the real giant. And when you don't know how, I mean, no one would set themselves up to fail. That's something
Correct.
that we don't want to do. So we would rather have small pain points and have something to complain about because that's just our point of entry. And I think that right now we do have a lot of trauma bonding, we have a lot of suffering, or even now that culture is telling you to go to counseling, it's still a kind of talk therapy that, for the most part, is you get a small amount of healing through actually saying something about your pain, because no one wants to listen to each other. That and no and we don't have a lot of real close friends. What happens is we will pay someone to be our friend and to just listen to us, and we
Mm.
will have a little bit of healing because we are processing the pain, but a lot of times that's where it stops. So traditional counseling gets you to the point where you can say, I want someone to love me. And here are all the ways that someone did not, whether it's my parents, society, whatever. But I think that, when you can move a little bit past that and say, what is it that is your purpose and what do you have to give? You automatically start to be at a level that demands a different kind of reciprocity or a different kind of matching. And I think a lot of us are just on right now. You can't deny there's problems. So you
Yeah.
have to almost feed a safe problem. And what happens with a safe problem, or any pain point, just like Masha was saying about baggage, we have triggers or all these kinds of words that really come from counseling. You can tell that there's been a generation of counseling, right? We're calling people narcissists. We're saying all of
Yes.
these disorders that we have learned in counseling. And we're saying, I have these triggers, but the
Triggers.
thing
Yeah.
about finding out about a trigger is a pain point.
Yeah.
What
Okay.
has to happen with the trigger is that you have to realize that you're also triggered to laugh. You're also triggered to have fun. You're also triggered to relax. You're triggered to do so many
Have
things, right?
sex, to eat,
So if
to
you can say to yourself that I have a trigger and I could get rid of it, I have a trigger and I could amplify a whole nother one, like it still comes down to skill development, which doesn't always happen in counseling. A lot of times, perhaps we're better able to articulate our issue, but it still comes down to, I'm going to process this pain
yeah, it's
over and
just
over
pain
and over and
processing.
over. And then when the trigger happens, I'm triggered again to process the pain. So we get to be able to stay at the pain point level and not actually raise beyond the pain point. It's almost like we have a wound that we keep peeling the scab off of and won't let the wound heal.
Yeah, we train therapists. I have been training therapists for 15 years. And I know, rational emotive, cognitive behavioral, all of these therapeutic milieus that are out here are not saving our people because they're not culturally based.
Yeah.
And to a lot of therapists, those that have received training from me, I always say being a black person gives you a greater level of sensitivity, but it is not empower you to change the condition of your people if you don't have a cultural education. So to all the people, we just did a show last week, and the brother was saying, one of the hosts, I want to talk to y'all behind the scenes because I am striving to get the same master's degree that both of you have. And I said, peace to you, get it. I won't dish you for that, but it ain't gonna do shit.
You know what?
We can go put you in some debt, and you know what I'm saying? Like, look, brother, um, therapy is the new black.
Ooh.
And but without black culture, it's absolutely whack. And what you are about to see in the next 5, 7 to 10 years is a whole generation saying, we actually
Therapy doesn't
went to
work.
therapy and it doesn't work. Why are they going to
Mm.
be saying that? Because we going in droves like never before. Now I grew up around white kids, and it was like, my therapist said back in the 80s, black people was like, therapy, what? No, that's white people stuff. And actually, it's not. To seek wise counsel
Right.
is embedded in African culture. They watch any movie, Wakanda Forever, but anything, the Woman King, any Roots, anything that has African people in it, you will see people coming to the war council, the family council. We don't show it as
Yeah.
much in relationships,
Yeah.
but trust me, there's a relationship council. And the way you know it's true, even today, many of our indigenous behaviors are encoded in our DNA. So we know the friend to talk to about relationships, the one we talk to about money, the one we talk to about kicking somebody's ass, the one we talk to about white people is crazy, the one we talk to about whatever. So we know that we have counsel. But what is actually happening is we're not getting relationship education. A Coma House Initiative work all of our books, all of our programs, the Black Love School, Akoma Day, the counseling, the coaching is based on three pillars. The first one is psychological reparation, because we have to heal the individual life cycle things that we've gone through in our family. We've been molested, we've been neglected, we've been abused, we've been cursed out, beat up, all of that kind of stuff. Then we have a collective psychological trauma in our ma'afa that we have to repair from. So psychological reparation is number one. Number two is relationship education. People think going to counseling is talking about your story. We tell people all the time, look, we're going to spend like 10 minutes on your story, and then we're going to spend an hour and a half on developing skills, because people are processing pain and they think that's what counseling is. But we need relationship education, which is the art and science of Black love culture. We need that art, the philosophy, the approach, the feminine energy. We need the science, the methodology, the practical steps, or the masculine energy. So we call it the why and the how, the art and science. But we need relationship education to go with our psychological reparation. And then to finish out our bars, we need cultural education, cultural initiation. So we need psychological reparation, healing, relationship education, best practices in those seven things I said. And then we need a cultural initiation to unlock the divinity in us, which is what Western psychology does not do. And so when you go to Western psychology, you'll heal one problem. And then, people tell me I've been in therapy for 6 years. I'm like, my G, you could get a degree in therapy in 6 years. Like, what is it that you're going for? You think that you're going to get relationship education, and you are not. It's like going to the doctor looking for wellness. They're just trained to treat disease. So you come in with a disease, they give you some medication, create a new disease, and then you come back, and then the cycle goes on and on. For us, we need to get these three things under our belt, and we need to be able to deal with people, not just because they Samuel-esque manosphere psycho that's on YouTube, or even a cute couple that look like they funny and they talking about how nasty they get in the bedroom. Like, none of that shit is going to help your relationship. We're still 8 to 10 out of us are single. Where are the group of couples that's going to take a couple through courting, mating, and into nationhood, the way a group of men take a male through boyhood into manhood, and a group of women take a female through girlhood and into womanhood? We need cultural initiation, and we got to stop playing, because our children have dealt with crack and AIDS and everything new they could pull out the sky for the last 45 years. And now for the last 50 years, they dealt with unmated families. Not single mother, single father. I was a single father with my oldest son when I first met Nawasha, and we came together 23 years ago. But we need a group of families to make up neighborhoods to create a nation, so that we can affect. We get to go next month and see Wakanda Forever. That's a nation, right? That movie would be totally different if it was one family, because he died in the first one. You know what I mean? Like, so we need a legacy, right? And we don't understand that, and we playing around.
Okay, so okay, so so what I'm gonna do right now, because we're in the second half.
Yes,
Um, so I jot down, you said the main three things: psychological reparations, which is when we're talking about healing, and then
yes.
we have relationship
Education.
education, which is best practices, and then
Yes,
cultural initiation, which you say
yes,
is missing from the Western psychology,
yes,
right? And
yes.
so, all right, so what I'm gonna do, because Fridays is usually open panel, so no one is gonna come up, but so I wanna make sure I tackle the questions, and we
Yes.
have a lot. We have a lot. So
Let's
we
go.
will start with Taylor Nubia. I have questions too, but I'm here for these people, so I'm gonna go with their questions. So Taylor Nubia says, "We have so many brothers today advocating polygamy on the net. What are your thoughts on polygamy?"
Polygamy is a system that was created by Black women because our men were dying at war. Despite what people say, we have not always done polygamy, and we will not always do polygamy, simply because Black men and women are born at the same rate. Even today, in this dysfunctional world, we are literally the other half of each other. Literally, not some metaphoric idea, but literally you came from the spiritual realm as one half of another mate, where the African term soulmate comes from. That wasn't the word because we didn't speak English, but the term is from that. So it was created at a time that women in a nation decided if 100,000 men went out and only 70 came back, 30,000 women deserve marriage, protection, and all the honor that it brings to their children and otherwise. So we will share our husbands with them. That is literally how this thing started right now today. So in theory, in concept, we are not against the concept of polygamy. There are 11 nations on the planet right now that polygamy is legal, right? You know, now a lot of people who go to work every day and are in the system in every way, when it comes to their relationship, they say, I ain't in the system. Yes, you are, because your name is downtown and they got you. You in the system. But okay, for the sake of argument, let's say, are we against polygamy? No. Are we against the way polygamy is being promoted by a lot of brothers? Yes. Is it ironic that it is always the unmarried people who talking about polygamy, which is being married multiple times? It's laughable. Get married one time, and then we'll talk about getting married twice. This idea of polygamy being a solution doesn't absolve having relationship skills. Now you got to have skills for multiple women. And if you don't got skills for one woman, what is going to make somebody believe? And I say this is as ironic a conversation as people in the project saying, do you want a Mercedes? Should we have Mercedes or BMWs? Like, which one is the real? Like, it's such a ridiculous conversation. My G, if you got 5 women, and I see these couples out here, we happy, we posing. We work with polygamous couples in our practice, and I never see them last long. And we work with families, whole families. The children of polygamous couples are insane. You know, most of them turn homosexual and they start going in drug abuse and other things because psychologically there isn't a relationship paradigm that makes sense. You can't have a polygamous couple without the children being involved in that conversation, the community being involved in that conversation. So it becomes what most people think it is. And men will say all day, no, I'm cultural. This has nothing to do with sex. Would you be polygamous if you only could have sex with one of your wives? That's the question. Because a lot of people are practicing polygamy like that. You are responsible for multiple women.
Yes.
But you're only having sex with one of them because marriage.
Because the focus is on marriage,
right?
And not just
right.
That's a good point. That's a good point, Mancho. Yeah.
That we're having about polygamy is retarded, and we looking at people like Polite, right? Who is my brother? I don't know him personally, right? Polite was for many years an example of how modern day Black polygamy could be fresh and you could still wear some whack ass Gucci clothes or something, right? Now you got a pedophile case, and you've been, your wings have been clipped. So brothers, stop, man, stop, get married. And you know what I'm saying? If that's what you want to do, you're going to be polygamous. You can't do that in America. So, you know, if you want to call it that, you want to have an open relationship or whatever, show me the plan that's not financial, but show me the plan that's emotional and psychological, where your children and your family are going to be well for the next 15 years because of this relationship. I have not ever seen people do that. We have a doctor, a famous doctor in this country, Black doctor, who people don't even know practiced polygamy on the low. He's a client of ours. His oldest child is 40 something. His youngest child is a baby, like maybe like 10 or something like that. The children are insane because of the relationships. And I'm not saying that they're insane like like a
I got
discipline,
you.
but I'm saying psychologically the machinations of those relationships has been extremely hurtful to these people, and they are carrying that now. His grandchildren are carrying that. And
Yeah.
I had a beautiful conversation with this brother who a lot of people know, and he wept on the phone saying, if I had to do this all over again for the short period of time that I enjoyed what I thought was it, I wouldn't have done it.
I think you
Mm.
still need the same skills.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, even when parents have a good relationship, so we tell our clients all the time, your parents could have had an amazing marriage. They could have been married for 50 years, 60 years, but even in those cases, most times parents are not giving intentional lessons to their children. So what happens is children grow up wanting what their parents had and not knowing how to reproduce it in their own lives, or
Mhm.
absolutely not wanting what their parents had because they blame that for whatever challenges they have had. And I
Mhm.
think that that happens, that it's magnified in a polygamous relationship
Mhm.
because there are more people, sometimes more
Mhm.
children, sometimes, much more scrutiny, even
Mhm.
if it's just coming from the community, outside places.
School.
What
Yeah.
you have is you don't understand the choices that your parents made and you don't see how it was the answer, so you turn away from it. And this happens in so many different kinds of relationships. Sometimes when you're very strict, like we have I think avatars about it. When you say preacher's kids, or like when you say
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
person grew up under this, they're about to swing that pendulum all the way to the other side because
Yeah.
they're looking for harmony. They're looking
Yeah.
for balance. And this is just something that we deal with, I think, as people.
That's a good point. I never even looked at it that way, Noasha, that they're looking for harmony. So they end up going to the other extreme. That makes a whole lot of sense. But I want to get to the other question because I want to get to the rest of the people. I don't want anyone to feel neglected. Um, all right. So Anna, she says, I hear people say you should heal first before getting in the relationship. If we wait to heal everything, we'll always be single. What's your thoughts?
I agree. I
I
think that healing is perpetual. There are basic skills you should get before you get in a relationship, but you can't heal as a single person. This is the individualized thought. We think
Hmm.
we can heal first and then get in a relationship. Healing comes from two responsible people working on themselves in a relationship. So there really isn't a healing, an individual healing. I know that's popular today and people say it,
Mhm.
but
That's
whether
another
it's
safe problem to have.
yeah, whether it's medical or
Mhm.
dietary healing, you didn't make yourself fat. M&Ms did, or Snickers bars, or whatever. You didn't make them, so you didn't create your problems by yourself. And for most of us, we can't heal our problems by ourselves. We
Mm.
when people, I agree with that statement that she said. When people say healing, what are we talking about?
Mhm.
What is it? Because that is a, just like mental illness or mental health is a term, healing is now a term. How do we measure it? And what is the example of it? The only way you can see your health is in relationship to dealing with other people. If you never saw a person and you were 600 pounds, how would you know that you were overweight? If you were
Mm.
fit and you never
That's a
saw
good
another
point.
person,
Mhm.
how would you know that you're fit?
Mm.
And so how do you know that you're emotionally, I think it's funny that all the single people talk about how emotionally ready they are to be in a relationship.
Mm.
This is projection. and
Mhm.
and true healing is going to come. Now, I do not believe in psycho dysfunctionality, saying, yo, let's start a relationship and we crazy as hell. I just got out the mental ward. You just got out of prison,
Mhm.
and we savage and crazy and we don't have no basic skills. Let's get together. I don't agree with that either. So there's the balance of what is the purpose of our relationship and what are the skills that we need to develop, and then who is best qualified to share those skills with us, and then what are the communities we need to be a part of to maintain those skills, because we can't work
Mm.
out one time and be healthy for the rest of our life, or eat one time and be nourished for the rest of our life, or go to work one day and get paid for the rest of our life. So we can't have healthy relationship because we went to counseling one time, you know.
Yeah.
about relationship education and community and wellness.
I feel like you've already answered this question in answering that other question. So I'm going to keep it moving. Is it possible to successfully date and find compatible mate without being fully healed? Can we heal together? And I feel like you've already addressed that.
Yes.
Guys, let me just talk to the chat for 1 minute. Guys, thanks for being here. If you are here and you have not hit the like button, please do so. If you are not yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. If you want to follow me on social media, it's at the real Hanifa Nayela on Instagram. If you're feeling generous and you don't ask, it's Cash App $ Hanifa Nayela. And I also want to make sure that I drop what's you guys' website?
Yes.
Let me see if I put it in the chat.
We'll see if we put it in chat, but we will put it in there.
Which I think.
Put
Oh, you
everything
can
in.
type it in the chat. Okay.
Yeah. We're putting it in right now.
Thank you.
Where you
So
can get to our counseling, coaching,
yes.
our Black Love School,
Mhm.
the books, everything that we have. Nawasha's putting a few things in there.
Okay, I see
So,
it.
so
All
you
right.
can,
So what I'm gonna do is copy that. All right. So I want to make sure that I'm catching my comments. The last comment that we had, where is it highlighted? Got it. Okay. I feel like you guys already answered this. I'm gonna keep it moving.
which question is that?
Taylor, huh?
What
Okay,
about? Can you?
okay, I was just
Yeah,
asking.
this one. Yeah.
Well,
So,
I do want to add just one thing.
sure, go ahead.
I think that the thing that you can do if you're single is understand your purpose. So I think that we're just using the word healing wrong.
Yeah,
You're never going to be completely healed of anything, and you won't really know until you're actually relating with another person what triggers you or what is missing some area of development. So I think the one thing that you can know is how to know if somebody else wants a relationship, and you can know what your purpose is, so that when you're meeting people, that's part of the vetting that you can do is, am I aligned with what their purpose is? Are they
Mhm.
aligned with mine? And are they actually interested in a relationship? Because a lot of times people might think they've been on a healing journey and they end up with people who don't even want a relationship. So I think that
yeah,
you can definitely improve skills of vetting another person and being prepared to harmonize with someone. But the idea of having all of yourself completely healed, as Marsha was saying, we don't heal in isolation. It's actually the community that works with us to even point out what we have to heal.
right.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I would say to women, like, this is very, very important. And this is, I bid our brother Samuel some peace in the ancestral realm. I do think that he was about to make a change. I talked about it often. I reached out to him.
Mhm.
He popped into the Black Love School one time. Um, and, we just didn't agree with a lot of the stuff he was saying, but there were points that I did agree with. And one of the points that I agree with that he said often was, um, he said it like this: women give access to sex and men give access to relationships. I agree with that. I think a lot of women don't understand that the culture that we're brought up in seduces us mentally in two different ways. It seduces both of us equally, but it's
Mhm.
different. What it does for men is teach them that they're going to die or lose if they get in relationships. From the Superman ethos, from the superhero ethos, you can look at all the superheroes.
Mhm.
So they actually come from African Netaru or Orishas or Loas or whatever. They all of their stories are this: you can be the greatest thing in the world and save the world, or your enemies are going to get this woman that you have a
Mhm.
weakness for and destroy you. So as we
Mm.
develop all the way from children up to, I'm married to hip hop and this girl is my mistress, or all of these crazy things that we're saying, right? I got to get the paper first. Women will come second. You know what I mean? Like these are
That's big right now. Mhm.
these are monikers that we say that are not true.
Mhm.
Men don't value relationships, but what they will do is be in a relationship with you because they like you. Now, why that's problematic for you, that doesn't last long, right? And
Mhm.
so what is going to happen is it appears that a man is into the idea of the relationship, but he's just into you. But
Hmm.
that is seasonal. So we're so distracted. Most women, and it's not a diss to women, but
Mhm.
most women and men can't keep each other's attention for 2 seasons. That's 6 months. Do you know the average relationship starts going downhill 6 months? And if people got a lot of bandwidth, or they just keep the sex at a certain level, they can last another eight to, like, the average American relationship is about 18 months. And that's
Hmm.
that's the long ones. Because
Hmm.
some of in the social media area, it's like 3 sex encounters.
Hmm.
So however quick that happened, the first weekend we meet, or it's like by 3 sex encounters, I'm already starting to have sex with somebody else, or
Three.
I'm unpausing the sex that I paused that I was having with somebody else to meet you, and
He said,
then
I'm pausing.
I'm
Uh-uh.
I'm, I'm on something else. This is men and women today. I'm
Yeah.
saying
I
all
ain't
over.
messing with Mansha today.
Yeah,
Mansha
it-
said, I'm pausing.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We pause it and then we unpause it. You know what I mean? So,
So,
so
so Taylor's next question is, what are your thoughts on someone needing someone for completion? I feel like you hit down the surface. If you guys want to dive a little deeper into that,
I
please
think
do.
that this is there's an area there's a implication in this question. It's absolutely true. I think that sometimes we feel that this is a negative statement to say that someone else brings us a greater level of completion. But it's absolutely true. Again, there's only so far that you can go by yourself. So you absolutely are a person who is, your own sovereign being. But there
Mhm.
is the science of soulmating is real in the aspect that we are designed to reconnect. When you reconnect, whether you're a man connecting with a woman connecting with a man, you learn to have a greater capacity. So you
Mhm.
expand in love, you expand in your mind, all of those things that you cannot do alone. And from an indigenous perspective, you have a purpose that is aligned with someone else's. That is the story of soulmating, is that two people are going to come together to create a greater legacy. And this is either, whether you have children, physical children or not, there is something that happens when two people come together. So this idea that you need someone else for completion is absolutely true. You
Mhm.
cannot go off in life completely isolated and actually grow to your fullest potential. You have to have someone else. So that is the one partner, even your children help you grow, or taking care of other people's children helps you grow, having community and responsibility, and the exchange of whatever your gift is, your medicine, as one of our elders used to say. You have a medicine that has to be given. You have a purpose that needs to be fed. If you don't actually do something with your purpose, it will eat you up. And you will
Mhm.
just be how we are right now, in a lot of dysfunction. So you absolutely need someone for completion. The completion is really realizing your true purpose that is really encoded in you before you're born into the world. So when you're conceived, there's a purpose encoded in you. The only way that you can actually fulfill it is to exchange with other people.
this is in a coma.
Yes.
This is the symbol that white people told you to call a heart. It doesn't look like the organ called a heart. It is really about, this is a Ghanaian symbol from West Africa at this time, but it goes way back before Ghana. It is a symbol that is actually an abstract symbol in nature. We see it on plants and stuff like that, but all symbols have deep spiritual meaning. This is the symbol of purpose of our business, the Akoma House Initiative. This symbol represents the sacred science of soul meeting. At the bottom is the spiritual plane where
Mhm.
men and women are united as one literal
Mhm.
being. This trajectory moving up this way and
Mhm.
this trajectory moving up this way
Mhm.
represents our rites of passage, or our individual path,
Individual, right?
our
Okay.
humps, right?
Mhm.
So you got to get over the hump. When
Mhm.
you get over the hump, like we say hump day, we reconnect back to our divine purpose and point back to which we
Mhm.
came. Now,
Mhm.
if you take this symbol and make it like this, you can see that there's no such thing as being whole without somebody. And I find this very profound as a psychological therapist. It's only people who are unmated that advance that kind of idea.
Mm.
Or people who
People
have had unsuccessful
successful
relationships, because those
relationships.
people
Yeah.
sometimes come out of a relationship and
Yeah.
isolate because of being hurt, and will say, hey, I'm better by myself, I'm
Yeah,
Yes.
whole by myself, I didn't need anyone to complete me. So some, it is either people who are not in a happily committed relationship, or people who have been hurt in some way. That is the reflex, is to say that I'm complete as I am. But there's a level of testing whatever your beliefs and your values are, that happens with another person. And it's also, another person provides a way to look at you that you can't do alone. Right? We
well,
need mirrors to look at ourselves, just our own face and head. We need a mirror to be able to see ourselves. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times people don't accept that another person can actually see some of the areas where you need to grow. You're not going to know all of the areas yourself, just like you
yeah,
can't even see yourself
you can't
360.
see the top of your head. This is our company logo, which is that symbol, but we just put a man and woman's face to show the what the symbol actually represents. But this is
Mm-hmm.
African culture here. And I see all kind of African, especially brothers who say they African centered. The Dangara taught this, the Dogon taught this, Kemet taught this. It's in every tradition. Why are y'all saying that this is un-African? I see people
Mm-hmm.
from the continent who is having all kind of problems saying this is not African. And then when you speak to the elders, go to the continent, speak to them, read the glyphs, read the stuff. You're going to see this is an African symbol that represents the sacred science of soulmating. So
Mm-hmm.
now, why is all these dysfunctional, crazy, hurt, broken-hearted people saying I'm better by myself? When check this out, it takes two people to even make you. You can't get here with one person.
Yeah.
Why do you think that you're supposed to be alone? If you are supposed to replicate, you're supposed to generate, operate, and destroy, and generate life, operate the beauty of life, and destroy anything that threatens life. This is what makes you God, God, Goddess. Why
Mm-hmm.
are we advancing this idea that what is it that single people are producing on in large scale
Mm-hmm.
that nobody who's made it has produced? If y'all could show me that, then I would even say, I would still say it's an asinine argument, but I would at least say you have some, this is the therapist in me. I would at least say I would believe that you actually believe it. I don't believe people who advance this idea believe it.
I
And
believe that people do believe it.
social media proves it. If you really want to be by yourself, delete your social media account and stop talking to people you don't know, because 85% of the people you're talking to, you don't even know them. You, you,
Yeah.
you're just fishing for conversations or
Yeah.
whatever, whatever. So I think it's very interesting phenomenon that when you go all around the world, people who made it say you got to be made it, you got to have family to be complete. People who are the most unmated, the most dysfunctional, and dead last, even though we are the parent people of humanity, we're dead last in education, economics, entertainment, fashion, food, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And we saying we don't need no help. That's insane.
Yeah. I have a question. This is a little more personal to you guys. And you
Yes.
guys, again, in the comment section, if you have more questions, make sure you put them in the comments so I can give them to Moasha and Mansho and Moasha. I call y'all by your business name, by the way.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I this is a personal question to you guys because
Yes.
I know that you guys are well equipped. This is what you do. This is your life work, right? Do
Yes.
you guys still have to seek wise counsel as a couple?
Yes, absolutely. We seek, we're more receiving cultural initiation
Okay.
because we have clinical degrees and we teach therapists.
Okay.
It ain't a lot more to learn. All that shit ain't, it's just limited, but cultural initiation is not limited.
Okay.
And we've had many Jegnas or Jenak that we've shared, and then some that I've had as men and some that she's had as women. Recently, we were working directly with Malidoma Some before he returned back to the elders, and he's a Dagara Dogon elder. But we've been initiated in the Botswana tradition. We both came up the whole 23 years of our relationship. We were members of Smai Tawi Heal Thyself, Know Thyself Temple in
Okay.
Brooklyn, New York, under the
Yeah,
direction
yeah.
of Baba Heru and Queen
Hmm.
Afua when they were married.
Hmm.
And there's many others. The Quasis and Dr. Africa is a very, very personal Jegna that has trained us. Infudishi, Shola Arewa, and many others. And so we continue to bow to the elders and receive wise counsel in the form of initiation.
Okay.
Nawasha did start to pursue a PhD in clinical therapy. I'm done with it. It ain't going to save us. And it just creates debt. I'm serious. I was trained
Yeah.
by Naeem Akbar and others, Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, who are
Hmm.
luminary um, PhDs, and so I'm not against it.
Hmm.
But what I'm saying is where we are now, and the way we're receiving information, just like Nawasha said, we hover over a 3-minute video. Like, let's get to the good part before I click off. Most of us don't have, Minister Farrakhan said, look, Black therapists have been popular since the 70s. Right now, they're reaching an apex now that I never thought I would see, in the Western world, specifically in America. But every problem we had since the 70s has gotten worse. So we need something else.
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
our marriages have failed. Our health is worse. We really don't understand that our economics are worse because we don't understand the ratio of a few more of us are financially lucrative, but the larger share of us are way worse off. So we think because we know 23 people's podcasts and they all
Yeah.
billionaires, we almost there. I a lot of friends that we got are literal millionaires, right?
Yeah.
But most black people, like, how many black people used to own a home? You know how many black people we have never ever moved the needle from the 1% wealth that we have come out of enslavement with. Never have we gone to like 5 and now we back at 1. It's always been at the 1. So the
Mm.
illusion is that we're actually in a place that we're not. I just heard Puffy say it. We got all of these billionaires in entertainment, but we got labels, we got companies, but we don't got distribution, and we don't have the ability to own our stuff. An individual can get their masters, but
Yes.
as a general artist, you have to negotiate with these companies to get stuff that you actually created. That's enslavement. So now social media has helped to a certain degree. What it's actually helped with is individuals putting out music and people consuming that music who don't have a deal. But if you talk to most of those people, the real reason they putting out stuff is because they trying to get a deal. They're trying to
Mm.
walk into the enslavement situation. So it's really perspective that we don't understand. But
Hmm.
it's the saddest of all when you go to relationships because you can go around the world and talk to yellow people, light brown people, and white people, and you'll say, "Well, how do y'all deal with difficult children, or how do you deal with divorce, or what do you think about polygamy, or what do you think about whatever?" And they will all begin their answer like this: "Well, in my culture." Ba 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 ba. Then you talk
Very
to
true.
white people over here. I just think that Marsha don't know what the hell he talking about. That's his opinion. Like, okay,
Facts. That's true. That's very true,
okay,
Moncho. I'm gonna go through some comments, so we
yeah,
could take a breather real quick. I don't see many questions, so I'm just gonna run through them. The wireless woman says, "I've been in therapy for 9 years, on and off, but I have anxiety disorder, and I found continued maintenance is the best preventative to acute outbreaks." Maybe my bay
Can I
say,
say to
"I've
the
been trying
sister?
to get
Can I say
therapy
to the
for."
sister with anxiety disorder?
Go ahead. Okay.
I would love to talk to her one-on-one. We definitely do free consultations. I'm just intrigued to learn. There's a lot of anxiety disorders in the DSM, and however you have been labeled. Anxiety is the preoccupation with a future fear that absolutely is not true. It's real. So there's a difference between something that's real and something
Hmm.
that's true. I
Okay.
would love to talk to you and describe how we deal with anxiety disorder. I don't want to do it here,
Yeah.
obviously, but
Yeah.
I would love to do that. So there is, I think, let me just put this.
I'm putting the
Um,
link in the
yeah,
chat
this is
again.
a link for you to get a private consultation,
Yes.
because I would love, it ain't gonna cost you nothing. I would love for you to I'm sure I know, and you said maintenance, so I know you're probably on mood stabilizers or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, so I would like to talk to you about that.
Okay.
So go ahead to the
All
next
right,
one.
all right. So I'll make sure I put that in the link once you get that over to me in the
Yeah.
private chat. My base says I've been trying to get therapy for years, but I can't seem to get a professional to have me as a client. Always an issue of some sort. Perhaps you can check out Moasha them as well. So I'm going to be putting the link in the chat so you guys can get your free consultation and also check out their website. Thank you, Mansho. I see it.
Yes. That soulmate
Um,
strategy is not to be confused with coupling. It is soul, self, others, understanding love legacy. That's what it is. And so some people see us and think, oh, y'all just work with couples. A lot of my clients are students, they're individuals. And I really, my background is Micah Kamey, mental health and chemically addictive and mentally ill.
mhm.
And I work with a lot of the rapists, the murderers, those type of people. Nawasha's background was educational psychology and women's empowerment and energy medicine. We put those two things together to make this firm, along with our individuals. So my background is with a lot of the disorders that are put in the DSM, and to show you that the DSM, this is the where's the new DSM? I got it right here. This is the DSM-5 that we use as therapists for
Mhm.
the diagnostic statistical manual. And I tell Black people all the time, I tell therapists when training them, this, you have to see this as a cultural book, because first of all, it's not even made up. It's made up by a committee, and it's
Mhm.
not even all clinicians that make it up, right? So number one, this is a cultural book. How do you know? One of the first one of the first diagnoses was drapetomania in American culture, which
Yes.
was enslaved people who were running away from enslavement. They said they had a mental illness. Now,
Yes.
when you go through this whole book, there's thousands of diagnoses, right? There's very few about racism, white supremacy. How is
Yes.
that possible when it's the greatest problem on earth? And it is, as Francis Cress Welsing said, responsible for 95% of all other problems.
Very
How
true.
is it not anything in here that addresses that? Why? Because a culture decides what's real and what's not. And so it is it is imperative that even Black therapists who mean well, they go to this book. If the person sets the rules to the game, they will always control the outcome. They go to this
Very
book
true.
and tell their brothers and sisters who they love, you got blank, whatever label. Here's the different treatments you can have, and da da
Mhm.
da 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 da. We have a different approach, and I want to talk to the sister or anybody, to the sister who said, I tried to get therapy. The world is overwhelmed with dysfunction. And so a lot of therapists, we create communities of therapists because a lot of therapists are worn out. I was working part-time in a firm a couple of years ago, and we were on a group call with 20 therapists. 18 of us were in therapy because
Mhm.
we were in therapy ourselves.
Mhm.
Now, I said therapy, but I was actually working with malodoma. It was cultural initiation, which is a
Yeah.
form of therapy.
Mhm.
But
Yes.
of the 20 of us, 18 of us were in therapy, and the one who wasn't was a neophyte just coming into the field. She was like 4 months in. And
Yeah.
the other one was Dr. Cassell, who was the leader of all of us, right?
Okay.
And so we were working at his firm. And so I just say that you will find you deal with a lot of black therapists. They overwhelmed. You call them, they don't take your insurance. Whatever. It's all kind of things that you're
Yeah.
dealing with, and
Yeah.
so you will find a lot of therapists will just say, "I'm maxed out at this time. I'm not receiving clients
Yes.
at this time."
Hmm.
I've heard from clients who say, you know, I called him or her, and she said she put me on a waiting list that said it's probably next year. Well, I need help now. We say this: you're going to come with us. The max you can work with us is 12 weeks, and we're not going to hold you forever because what we're going to give you is actual solutions, right? And we're not going to make the processing of pain. That's not therapy. And that's what's happening. When you're using, I ask people this, and think about this. Anybody who sees this or is under the sound of my voice now in therapy, do you know the actual therapeutic modality that your therapist is using?
That's
Nine
a
out
good
of 10 do
question.
not. They do not
Yep.
know that they're, do you know the success rate of this person? And what is the goal of therapy? I know every 90 days they do a workup on your goals and your objectives or whatever, but the goal is wellness and to actually get out of the situation you're in. If a person is highly trained, that should not take forever. But when
Okay.
people tell me, as I said earlier, I've been in therapy for long enough that I could have a degree in therapy, something's
Yeah.
wrong with that.
Okay.
Something's wrong with that.
So, okay, that's a good point. That's a good point. Also too, okay, so let me just, I want to go through the comments. I'm so Quantum says, I'm so done with meeting people. These people aren't healed. She- and there's a lot of that going on now,
Yeah,
especially with like 20 something year olds.
yeah.
I was listening to a young 22-year-old guy who was just like over the race conversation. He couldn't understand why black people were so focused on him as a young black man dating a black woman. Like his thing was like his response was, it's not about race, it's about culture. And what he was describing about culture is, I think he was really describing like values, meaning that you find someone who is family oriented, you find someone who, you mesh as far as what your vision is as far as a family and so forth. And for him, he felt like we should not be considering race, which race should not be factored in that, because even you can meet a black woman who don't even share your same values. So his mindset is, why are you guys obsessing over race? Does it matter as long as the person has the same values as me? And when I was listening to that, it kind of broke my heart, because I was just like, social media is really shaping the minds of our young people right now. Like
Right,
they're literally in their phone 24/7. They're on the bus,
right.
they're at work, right before they go to sleep. Like it's literally shaping their mind. And in his name, he actually had Red Pill, which is the Red Pill sector of YouTube.
Yes.
Right. And so he's only 22 years old. That broke my heart. But I want to continue with the comments. So she
Yeah,
said, okay,
I want to say to that
yeah,
we're the only people who do, only the oppressed people say that race don't matter. Only the oppressed people say that race don't matter. That's just the answer to that. Having dealt with white girls in my youth, like their family don't love you, bro, and cut it out. Like they don't love you. So
yeah.
let's
I
move
I
on.
just had that.
And you know it. You know it when
I just
when
had
you
that
come in the house and
conversation.
all of that. You know, yeah, mom might try to act like she hoped to God that her daughter get out this hip hop phase from dating you, but her uncle and somebody else in the room, they hate your ass, and you know it. So cut it out.
Okay, so let me continue. My base says they're definitely on heal, but some of them seem to be trying to make positive changes. Quantum Love says I'm definitely more masculine. Then I don't know if I guess it's
Is
in
that a
response to
woman saying
something.
that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's in response to something that was said.
Hmm.
She said Taylor said he spoke some truth but did not see authentic intentions. Peace. My base says, so men have relationship ADD. Joking.
You can say
Because
that.
you say men do not prioritize relationships. Quantums is saying that I guess she's saying as women we're getting smarter. We leave when it's just not gonna work. Back in the days they suffered to death. I guess she's saying in comparison the woman in the past in
Yeah,
comparison to the
I
I
men.
think
wouldn't say
I
that.
think that that is where the "you're better off alone" comes from. That's why I
Yeah.
said that I do believe that some people believe it, and this is the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
There is a time, especially in American culture,
Mm-hmm.
that women did not have as many options for leaving a marriage or for not getting married, period. And this is literal buying a home on your own, doing things for your children, going to work and still being able to have a family. So when those women saw their mothers and grandmothers suffering, this is where the idea of I can do some things on my own comes from. And I see a lot of men, quote the statistics that women ask for divorces more than men do. And this is a challenge because now women can ask for a divorce. So there was a time when you could not, and there was a time when you could not live if you did the divorce. Now that you actually have the option, and now that you actually can say, I want someone who will communicate with me, I want someone who will participate with me to a certain extent and not just be a financial provider, not just be a man in the house who is wanting sex or wanting these certain things. You actually have to relate to me in order to be in a
Yes.
relationship. That
Yes.
has people are reacting to that a lot, and I see a lot of men reacting to that. But I believe that this is where some of that comes from. A lot of the times that you're hearing someone say, "Hey, I'm good on my own," many times that is a woman's conversation,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Like, it's in reaction to, if I'm in a relationship, I will be suffering in some way. I will be abused. I will be taken advantage of. I will be unfulfilled and just there physically, spending time in the relationship. And I think that, that has been a reality for us in the different generations that we're looking at our parents. And this is why it's so important to be married and not just treat it as a business, but to actually be fulfilled. Because this is where, even if you don't have children, other people are looking at you. If you are you ever smiling? Are you ever
Mm-hmm.
happy? Are you
Mm-hmm.
actually feeling that your personality gets to the level of growth and purpose that it's supposed to get to? And a lot of times, women don't feel that way in relationship. We feel that it becomes a burden, like the weight of the anything emotional has to be carried by the woman, and that's exhausting. So what we end up saying is, hey, well, I'm good alone, and I'm just tired of these people who are
Yeah.
unhealed. But no one is healed completely, and like we said, it's not even possible to do 100% on your own.
On your
But what
own.
you do have to do is have relating skills, so that when you get to certain points, you can smooth out the challenges. And I think that to an extent, you get better with that.
And I want to, I
Yeah.
want to,
So,
I want to talk about the greatest problem women have,
Mm-hmm.
because this is very relevant, and to the earlier comment. But go ahead. Were you
no,
finished?
no,
Oh,
but
okay.
go ahead.
Go. Forgive me. Forgive me.
Plus, I'm
Forgive
very
me.
excited
Forgive me.
in this conversation.
No, I was actually, my daughter came over here, sidebar, and slipped me a note. So,
So, but
I,
Mansio, before you jump into that, because I wanted to piggyback on something that Nwasha said.
mhm,
In this particular space, in social media spaces, TikTok, YouTube, it's almost like it's very difficult to watch Black men and Black women have conversations because
right,
everyone is coming to the table with talking points. So we're
right,
not talking to each other; we're talking at each other. It's like
right,
everyone is coming into the conversation almost approaching it like it's a debate, and and
right,
and someone has to win at the end, right? So
right,
there's no build, the conversation is not evolved, and everybody leaves the way they came in. So when Nasha mentioned the 80%, that's a talking point in this space. 80% of women file for divorce, and so I'm just like, I struggle when people start throwing out stats, because I always say stats don't tell the full story.
yeah,
It just
yeah,
does not. And I'm just
yeah,
like, we're having a numbers conversation. And
yeah,
if anyone should know anything about numbers and how they don't capture the full, it's Black people in America,
yeah,
because it doesn't tell the full story. But for some reason, someone has a narrative to push. So the focus becomes, oh, well, Black woman, I mean, women are uh, filing for divorce at a higher rate. And I'm like, well, can we unpack that? Can we talk about why that is so we can get to the root of the problem? I just wanted to inject that in on top of what
Yeah, I agree
Marsha
with
said.
that.
Go ahead.
I agree with that 100%. And it's men that advocate that because pretending to talk about numbers and the science of it
Mm-hmm.
is the strong suit of men, but it's actually the shield for the emotional vulnerability. You know, we know when you go for your master's degree or even any degree, and you
Mm-hmm.
statistics are important, but they can never, you know, they teach you that statistics are not truth, which I tell all of these Samuelites that's out here, a statistic is not a truth. It's a
Yes.
social indicator. And
Mm.
it's an indicator of a controlled group
Mm-hmm.
because there are no statistics that apply for all Black people in
Mm-hmm.
America. And I always say, they say they don't recognize that. They say 80% of this and that. And that. I say, bro, do you realize that they talking about out of a sampling of 100 people? Like when you go to the actual studies, people say, well, this study and that study, you can tell you're talking to a person who doesn't understand what statistics are used for. Statistics are used for a social variable that you want to be true, right? So a lot of men are saying 80% of women file for divorce as if to say women are quitting, right? This is the
Yes. Yes.
argument that they're advancing. The
Mm-hmm.
flip side of every statistic, this is a statistic is like a lie detector test. It's measuring something, but it's so ambiguous that you can't use it in a court of law because it can easily be, I don't understand the depth of the question. You asked me, is my name Mansho Edu?
Mm-hmm.
And I said yes, but it registered a lie because my name is Mansho Afio Ding Momar Edu. And you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like there's so many different things, right? So 80% of women file for divorce. That means 80% of men didn't keep their word that they got married on.
Mm-hmm.
Same statistic, but
Wow. Mm-hmm.
this really speaks to the point that I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Men have mastered a dysfunctional science the way women have mastered a dysfunctional art. When we talk about the art and science of Black love culture, we say often men and women need both, but men really need the art. They need to understand that, bro, that's the why of Black love. You are going to live longer. You're going to make more money. You statistically are going to have more sex. You're going to have you're going to have more protection from this global system of white supremacy and many, 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 many more things that we can talk about. Men not having this art is making them highly dysfunctional. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I said men don't value the relationship, that wasn't a gender war jab at men.
Right.
It
Mm-hmm.
was an analysis of the social conditioning that they're receiving. But let me tell you what is women's issue.
Mm-hmm.
They need the science. What is the science? The science is the practical application, the procedure, the steps of building a relationship. I am telling you, I have never met a Black woman that has a good handle on that. And so
Mm-hmm.
what happens is they start at step one with a man, and then they jump. It's 7 steps. They jump to step 10. They at the first date, like, what was our children look like, and all it like. They're skipping steps. The steps are laid out a lot of times, but they just won't adhere to them because just like men are living by a false superhero ethos, women are living by a false fairy tale ethos. And
Mm-hmm.
they just believe, I want to skip to the end. All fairy tales skip to the end. There is a lot in between those stories of we met, we had conflict, and we live happily ever after, but they don't care. It's like, I met you. Are you married? Do you have kids? Do you have a job? And are you single? Okay, great. My list is checked off. You 6'5" and you got an 8-pack. Now, what would our children look like?
Mm.
And they go to this kind of system that then, when the man starts to act in a way like he doesn't value relationships, because he talking to you, he like
Mm-hmm.
you. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a difference between she, he, and the we that is a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
A man can like you for a year and he ain't never told you that he wanted to be in a relationship with you.
Woo.
And he can say, I love you, or whatever kind of little, buzzword you want to make him say. But if he doesn't value relationships, he can have a great time with you and
Mm-hmm.
walk away. I used to be the master of this. Now, in my mind, I'm saying I'm not abusing you, I'm not lying to you. I just do my normal like 6.5 months and then I'm on to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll do 6 months of being by myself and then jump into another. And that pattern was going on for years and years and years, right? So now I meet women and run into them, and I'm like, yo, we friends, we cool. And they like, I'm looking for closure from you. And I feel like this, and this. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even see that we were in something like that. And you walking around thinking about me 3, 4 days later,
Wow.
I don't even see you
That's
like
so true.
like,
That's so
like, like,
true.
what are you talking about? Like, I
Yeah.
thought you was about to hug me and tell me what's going on with your life and all that. And you kind of like uptight with me
Yeah.
because of the relationship you thought we was in. Home girl, we was never in that relationship to me. I just thought you were a beautiful person. I thought you were physically dope. I liked you. We had a great time, but I was not in a relationship with you,
Wow.
sweetheart.
Is that
You
a
know,
nature
and
thing? Is that because we just wired differently?
well, it's partly that, but
And
Okay.
I
it's
do
it's
think it's some of the conditioning.
it's the
When you
conditioning.
have
Yeah.
the fairy tale conditioning, I do think it also you have an expectation.
Right.
So what happens is you go into a marriage, and a lot of women think this about relationships. When whatever happens, whether it's the commitment, you take on certain titles, or you get married, right? You have a ceremony. Sometimes women feel that if this happens, it will equal something else. And that's not necessarily true. Sometimes men will say something so that they can keep you close. Sometimes they'll get married because they don't want to lose you. But it doesn't mean that if I call you my woman, I'll stop talking to other women. If we get married, I'm going to sit with you every Thursday and we can cuddle. Like it
Right. And
doesn't
we can go to the
necessarily,
mall or whatever
it
you
doesn't
think
mean
it
those things.
means.
So sometimes I
Yeah.
think that what happens is in those kind of statistics, what lawyers will tell you is that yes, women filed for divorce, but they also listed that they asked to go to counseling and the man wouldn't go, that they asked for certain things and the man wouldn't do it. So then the woman got her own lawyer, which is something that we can do now that we couldn't do before. So you also can't just across the board compare time periods when people are not, when all things are not the same. This is another challenge with statistics. You can pull a statistic from 50 years ago or 100 years ago, and it doesn't necessarily translate to what would be happening today.
And I
And
think
I think that this is the challenge, is that if you have an expectation that you don't actually articulate, which goes back to, are you actually good in communication? And
Mm-hmm.
communication is not just talking about what you want. Like I told him I had to be married and I told him it had to happen within
Mm-hmm.
12 months. That's not the only part of communication. The other part is listening. The other part is, are you
understanding
understanding and do you have a mutual understanding? And those are the things that are
and a
not
unified
happening.
action.
So I think that this is, where we are dealing with a fairy tale. The idea behind a fairy tale is that it will be happily ever after. And I think that some of that conditioning is you met someone, you have an agreement, and then there's no teaching of how the beginning of the relationship, which is typically what happens at the end of a fairy tale.
Right.
At the end of a fairy tale is we're together, we're getting married, and it says, and they lived happily ever after, the end. But that whole life that they led together, that we don't actually get to see the working of that. So what
Right.
happens is we have the
The
buildup, we
story
have the
ends at the
security,
beginning.
and I think what's really unique about fairy tales is what I see a lot of women are dealing with now, in that you have the expectation that you're putting someone into. So a lot of times we do have a list. We do have what we want. We have all whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And we're saying that I'm just waiting for this so-called Prince Charming or whatever to fit into my story. Most of the fairy tales, and I joke about this with my friends and even with some clients, the men have sidebar roles in the
Right. They
fairy
don't
tale.
even have names.
Sometimes they don't have, sometimes
Yeah.
they don't have names. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
They got
Wow.
Sometimes
descriptions.
they have titles,
Shining Knight.
right? So this is what
Wow.
happens is we say, and still and definitely this happens in psychology all the time. We have whole common name disorders for the Cinderella complex, you know, the Peter Pan
Mm-hmm.
complex, because those are real
Mm-hmm.
lessons. All fairy tales were meant to give a lesson, but when they're done in a vacuum or they're done for commercialism, we lose the symbolism that's supposed to go along with the fairy tale. So
Mm-hmm.
when we have a Cinderella complex, when we have want to be saved by someone and have a come up from the relationship, we don't have
Mm-hmm.
to learn any skills of how they relate. And I think that you can point to what are some general challenges with women because of our conditioning and some general challenges with men because of our conditioning. But what we have to realize is it is the conditioning. And you can have some of the conditioning and get greater awareness if you're trying to solve your problem. If you're just trying to have a safe problem or process pain, you're not going to analyze the conditioning to the level that you should. And once people know whatever is happening in their conditioning and they understand a problem, then they're going to move to, now that I understand this, I have to know what to do. Now that I know what to do, I actually have to do it. And I think that that's where we fall off, is
Mm-hmm.
doing something, which is why when we come out, we're just saying, hey, we're like politicians. I got my 10 talking points. You got your 10 talking points, and we're going to check online and see who the winner is by who
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
the
Right,
most
right.
likes, follows, the most clips of our comments.
Yes.
And I think that we, like you said, we're not looking to really unpack the whole conversation
Mm-hmm.
and to be fair and to look at ourselves. And I think that this is something that you have to look at. I think that there was an article that was floating around recently about why men are having a hard time finding a relationship.
Yeah, I
And the
saw
article was
that. Mm-hmm.
today talking about what you used to be able to do is say, hey, I can buy you a house and I can get you a car and I can give you some children. Women are saying, well, I could do all that for myself. The same conversation that men say.
Yes.
Cook, I can
Yeah.
I can order out. You can clean. I can hire a maid. We have to start to
Mm-hmm.
realize that we are doing something at
No.
beyond the superficial level, and that what are you actually doing when you
My
want to
favorite
link your
is what
life
you
with
bring to the
someone?
table.
I think that,
Yes.
those
I'm the table.
those are talking points again, buzzwords that you
Again,
can't
yes.
wait to say it. It's like you want to throw down the card that has that buzz
Yeah,
phrase
yeah.
on there.
It's like a game of cards. Like, oh, you put that out. I got that.
Yeah.
Wireless woman got the funniest thing. Wireless woman, you on fire. She said,
Yes.
"We together, but don't post me."
Don't post me on social media. Don't put my face out there. Don't you dare.
I'm
Um,
gonna post my new sneakers, but I'm not gonna post you.
I wanted to say something to what Noasha said as well. One of the things I always tease my friends and I was telling her that, when they quote this 80% woman file for divorce, I said what's missing is exactly what you said, Noasha. That's not the full story. Because when you talk to these women, it's oftentimes they have actually tried to communicate. Now it may not have been in the most effective way, but they
Right,
tried to make known what their needs were, right?
right,
And so what I was telling her sometimes with men is like, a man is in the house and a woman is complaining about, you're not meeting my needs, you're not giving me attention, you're not, and then one day he didn't take out the trash, right? And it was just overflowing and she blows up. And his conversation with his boys is, man, she blew up over the trash. He don't even realize that just is an accumulation of
right.
all the complaining or whatever it was that she was doing over the week. And it's like this separation of like, no, this is an isolated incident. And I think that's what happens a lot of times with this number, with the 80%, is that at some point they're like, yo, we've been sleeping in separate beds for the last 5 years. Okay. And the woman gets up and says, somebody gotta go do something about this. And so she called a lawyer and she's like, because you clearly not gonna do it. Another thing that I heard someone said, and I was like, absolutely not. One of the things I have observed with men, Manshaw, you could probably speak to this as well. I feel that men will sit
Yes.
for years in a relationship that had, I mean, the thing, they haven't touched each other in how long? And it takes the woman getting up to go and file for divorce. And then the man said, well, she wanted to leave, or she thought that, no, sir, the marriage was over
Yeah,
3 years ago. Why do you think that
yeah.
is? Why
I
do
A
think
men
the
lot
do
of,
level
a
of
lot of,
satisfaction is different
yeah, a lot
inside
of,
of a
yeah.
relationship.
In a relationship, we talk about a lot of concepts. We got a lot of talking points, and one of them is, um, Men want things to stay the same and women want things to change.
Okay.
For most men, as long as you can halfway cook and sex is regular, I'll stay in something horrible. Like I'll stay in something
Mm.
horrible because I'm good with those couple of
And I
things.
think men have a lot of
And
room to still be themselves
yeah,
outside of the relationship. So
right,
their level of satisfaction with their solo life
right,
is going to be different, even if it's not completely that they're, fulfilled at home. I think that women look at the interpersonal relationship and then have less fulfillment outside of the home. So
right,
the freedom is not the same.
right.
So I think that we can't really deal with,
I,
especially if you have some children and they get a little bit older and you don't feel the link or the responsibility to do the relationship for the children,
right,
you'll be out.
right. I would
Mm.
say there is no one more wrong, like to the point that you said men will stay in a relationship. Women will sell themselves away in that same relationship. They will
Mm.
say, I didn't go to counseling because he didn't go. And I always we talk about relationship algebra. One person is the X factor. If one thing changes, the relationship changes because the mistake that women are making is they think they are the relationship versus the relationship is something they're in, right?
That is
So
true.
there is so you're not your relationship.
Yeah.
You are in your relationship with your
Hmm.
partner, and because you don't understand the process and the steps of that, we have women who like say, I was going to go. We ask in our intake, people will tell us, I've been dealing with this for 5 years. And we'll say, 5 years, what have you tried? And they
Mm.
might list two things. We tried to talk to pastor, and that ain't work. And then we talked about counseling, and I read my love language is gifts of delusion, right? So they'll be like, we and I'm like 5 years. And that people say I have we say this often to our clients, and we say it when we speak publicly. When we know from 20 years, when a person say, I have tried everything, that
Yeah.
means two things. That means like one and a half things you've tried, and then you've suffered in that. So just like men will stay in something that, listen, neither one of us is happy
Hmm.
when we're
Sure.
actually not happy. But you will stay and suffer. We
Hmm.
will stay and tone out, which is a different kind of suffering.
Hmm.
And so it's the same thing.
That's so true.
Not
Yeah.
different at all.
Men also
Yeah.
have different expectations when it comes to failure. So some men may not file for divorce because they don't want to be seen as a failure in the marriage, as a husband, as a father. And there's a different expectation of what other people's expectation of them is. So they can silently suffer and not want to make that known, to friends,
Right.
family, and even neighborhood.
And no
I
man
think
is in the bed for 5 years without having sex
he
either.
might be having sex with somebody else, but
Yes.
this is the thing, like, again, to save face, right? And this is where you'll and what happens is that a woman knows that.
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
when you're saying I'm not having sex with you, but you're having sex with somebody else and you're not
Hmm.
trying to leave, then I'm definitely leaving.
Right.
Right. So this is
Got
where we
you.
just draw our line in the sand. But we are always at the same level. And this is what we tell people is that you're not somehow dating down or you didn't marry down. You're marrying at whatever your level of skill is. So when you're finding conflict, it's good for you to raise your own level personally. So it's always
Yeah.
good to go to counseling yourself with the understanding that you're doing it for your relationship. Because again, somebody says, if I can grow personally, I'm going to outgrow this relationship. But
Hmm.
if you go to enhance your skills, whoever interacts with you automatically has to up level in order
Yeah.
to deal with you. And this is something that we just don't think of. But I think also women are very communal. So we put
Yes.
things out for the we. We should go to counseling. We should do this. We should
Yes.
go
Yes.
out more. We suggest when we speak.
Yes. Yes. We
We do
do.
a lot of things that get misunderstood again.
Hmm.
Just like sometimes when a man is being brief, it doesn't mean that there's not depth.
Right.
When a man is being direct, it doesn't mean necessarily that it's meant to be harsh.
Women say he doesn't communicate, and then he comes into counseling with me and won't shut up. It's
And
because
also with me, it's not only that
yeah,
men talk with
yeah,
men,
he
it's
does it with the
that
washer.
men talk when they're invited and when the next question is one that is of depth, right? So if you're curious, you can get anyone to talk about anything. But if someone has felt shut down and they feel like every question is part of an interrogation, then they will avoid conversation
That's the call we
altogether.
had today
So
with the
I
brother.
think that,
Like He's like, I'm willing to try anything, but I just don't want to talk to her. He's like,
Woo!
I want my relationship to work for me, the children. I actually love her. I will work with y'all to fix the relationship, but then once we get healthier, I'm leaving. And we're like,
Wow.
why? Because he's so bitter and he's not able to detach himself from this dysfunction he's internalizing as his failure. He's not saying that, but I always say, I used to say to Kevin Samuels, when you say this statistic, it's the same thing. 80% of women file for divorce
Wow.
after 80% of men divorce their women. When she's filing for a divorce, a lot of times he's already divorced her. That's why she's
Mm.
filing for the divorce. So it's
Mm.
the same thing.
Yeah.
And the reason all of these things are talking points, as I said to him, me and him is the same age. You're not talking to our peers. You've been divorced twice. So that's number one. You've never been in a relationship beyond 3 years, and you don't understand the 7 sevens, how we change every 7 years, and
Mm-hmm.
our relationship does as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not really talking to qualified people. And I'm telling you, we came out public in 2007, right? And we went all over the country looking for couples specifically that were doing Black love culture work. Back then, when you used to Google Black love, it used to be white people in black shirts. It wasn't even black. Like all this stuff that's out here
It's
now,
true.
it's true.
This
Like
is not even a joke.
you couldn't even find a picture of a black couple. And right now, today, you got to go to specialized sites, because when you sow Black love, they will immediately throw up the LGBT symbols, right? You don't
Mm.
see a plethora of black people, um, brown to dark skin. Somebody got to be light skinned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you don't see couples and families and children. You see LGBT is the new black, like therapy is the new black, right? But it
Mm-hmm.
ain't really black. It's not black cultural paradigms.
Mm-hmm.
No disrespect. My sister is in that community. I don't agree with it at all, but we love our people
Mm-hmm.
who are in that community, but we don't love the community. Just like you love your cousin who sell drugs, but you don't love selling drugs. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't understand how to make distinction between something, what a person is doing versus who they are, right? And so I just feel like 95% of the people that we found when we looked around, uh, only one couple that we know, and we're very close with them, they're therapists. They're still together. Most of the couples broke up. They weren't therapists in the first place. And I'm not saying you got to be a clinical therapist, because if
Yeah.
you're a healer and you help somebody, like you're right now giving therapeutic milieu, which is a community
Right.
of good practices in healing and health.
Right.
So I'm not tripping off of that stuff just because I
Mm-hmm.
got those degrees. I'm saying that a lot of the people talking, they're not in it for Black love culture. They're actually in it to show that men are the problem, women are the problem, that I'm slicker than you, I'm cuter than the next person, how many followers you got, da 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 da. We're like a hidden secret. If you're not looking for cultural initiation and real solutions, you won't even find us.
Yeah, I agree.
You got a YouTube, we don't use it. We got
Yep,
all
I know.
we don't even care about that. So I think our
I
last
know.
video was like 7 months ago.
It was a
Because
while. It's been a while.
we're so busy with
Uh-huh.
actual clients and doing the work. We're not social media personalities.
I know.
And when you are out here looking around, now we should do better with some of that stuff, because we got an international reach. I'm right now working with brothers and sisters from 11 countries. And
Mhm.
so it's hard to keep up. Time zones are different and stuff like that. We need a new assistant, so we hiring and all of that. But the point that I'm making is this: 85 to 90% of the people that we're listening to about relationships, we should not be listening to them.
Mhm.
Not because they have no opinion. Everybody got one, and
Yeah.
everybody's opinion is valid. But if you're overweight and you're looking to be physically fit, you could go to fit people. If you're financially challenged and you're looking to be to develop your wealth, you go to wealthy people.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in relationships or want to be in one, you need to be with people not who just got lucky and did it for themselves, but you need to deal with people who have solutions.
Mm-hmm.
They have here's the 5 traits that you have to have if you want a relationship therapist or coach. Number
Mm-hmm.
one, they got to be in a relationship. You can't follow somebody can't take you to a place that they're not in. They
That's
got to be
basic.
in a happy
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, they've got to really love Black people, because when
Mm-hmm.
you love Black people, when you're a brother who actually loves Black women, even when we disagree, we're not trying to hold you accountable, which means punish you or humiliate you.
Yes.
You're trying to nurture each other into the highest level of yourself. So you got to love each other, right? And you can't be a psycho feminist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to love each other. Number three, you
Mm-hmm.
got to understand the global system of racism, white supremacy, because it is the thing behind all of our dysfunction. So you can't just understand it like, yeah, we over that, we passed that. When people start saying that, you know you're talking to the wrong person. This system has been in effect for 6,000 years and it keeps refining itself. What are you talking about?
Yep.
Social media is evidence of that.
Yep.
Number four, you've
Mm-hmm.
got to have a system that works in your absence. In other words, if we give you the skills, the 7 skills we're talking about, and the books, the programs, the Black Love School, we got over almost 50 classes in there, audio visual classes with hard work, and then we come together as singles and couples from all around the world and talk about it twice a month. You gotta have systems that operate outside of you, because if they kill you or if you gone today, then we all gonna lose our relationships, because we into deity worship, like I'm the relationship god and you got to listen to me. I'm saying you should have all our books. You should have like 5 6 other relationship authors that I could think of, and it's a lot of them coming out every day that are really qualified. So
Mm-hmm.
number four, you got to have systems that work in your absence, that people can master and then put their own spin on it and teach it to other people so it can
Mm-hmm.
grow extremely quickly. And
Mm-hmm.
then five, you got to have a credential. And I'll say this is for, in number five was it, you got to have a credential beyond social media.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. But who have you helped? Who have you worked with? We're about to touch 20,000 people that we've worked with in these last, I mean, we've been doing this work separately, but together in this last 23 years, we're about to touch 20,000 people that we've actually helped. And because of our media coverage, Oprah and other things, we've reached over 11 million people. Although many people don't even know who the hell we are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to have some other credential, then I'm starting a podcast too.
So
You
these
know,
are qualifiers, right?
it got to be something better than that, because soon as people start hitting you with difficult things that they're expecting you to be able to field, you're going to do more damage than you are going to do help, because the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You mean well, but some Black people, this week I've had 3 suicide calls. I've had some Black people are so on the edge. If you don't tell them something that's real and true right now, they're going to go kill themselves or somebody else. And some people are not ready for that level of clinical responsibility. So you playing around, and let's get into it now. We gonna talk that we it's fire night
Mm-hmm.
Wednesdays, he she war, and somebody will
Mm-hmm.
go in the other room and kill their spouse, and you never
Mm-hmm.
even know about it. I deal with
Mm-hmm.
those kind of people all the time. So this is serious stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Stop playing around with this if
Mm-hmm.
you are not qualified.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So those are your list of qualifiers. So these are the type of people that you want to follow if you are interested in Black love. And one is they need to be in a relationship. That's basic. Basic.
Yes.
Okay, basic. Number two, they need to really love Black people. And I'm so glad that you went through these 5 things, because we here. I'm here with you on this. Okay, they have to really love Black people. 3, this is a big one. This is a big one, Mansha and Washa, that a lot of our people don't get. Understand the global system of white supremacy racism. Just you have to understand that if you're going to be talking about black love,
That's right.
like, yeah, okay. Number
We got
four.
a class in the Black Love School called Black Love Culture versus the Global System of Racism, White Supremacy, where we break down all the stages of white supremacy and the stages of Black love culture and the clash that they are having and how to utilize one to defeat the other.
Yeah, and also to, you know what, Kim, I'm gonna go through the last two. So number four, you have systems that operate outside of you.
Yes.
And then number five, you have to have credentials beyond social media.
Yes.
That's it. I listed these because I sure enough when I clipped this video, okay, I'm like,
Yeah, that's real talk.
no, it is. It is. And I'm glad that you spoke to this because one of the issues that I have, specifically in this place, let me just tell you right now, being in this space, bust has popped my bubble. Because I'm so used to being around like-minded people who think as so when I got in this space, I did not know that there were black people who did not believe that racism exists. I didn't realize that there were black people who don't even think that there's such a thing as a system of white supremacy. I did not know this,
Yeah.
right? So one of the things that I realized very quickly is just how irresponsible a lot of us are with our platforms. And so when you were just talking, where you're like, you have a brother that might or sister that might be watching, and they're right at the edge, and you just say something like, black woman ain't shit. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Or, just we don't need them. That's all it takes. And then he goes over in the room, or, she commits suicide. Like, this is how serious this is. And
Yes.
so every time I hear the conversations, I'm just like, this is irresponsible. Irresponsible. There was a brother on one platform where I was cringing. I was just like, I was nervous. He was on one platform, young brother. He was young. But the way he was talking was about women in general. And you could tell he was biracial. I could tell he was. And
Right.
so the way he was talking about women, I was just like, wow, you guys talked about pain points, or that's what you call them, pain points. Like, he clearly was speaking from a wound. And the thing is that the men around him were cheering it on. They thought
Yeah.
that it was this good. Like, you use the word accountability. I feel like a lot of these men like watching black women get virtually abused, and they hide behind the mask of accountability. I have been saying this. You are not looking for accountability. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking for black women to be in pain as much as you are, for whatever reason that is. And that's something that I've come to terms to just in this space alone.
Yes.
So, the last thing, because I'm going to wrap up now, I wanted to ask this question earlier. um and you guys spoke to something as well, that Neely Fuller came to mind, and he had those list of questions that you should be
Mm-hmm.
asking. Pretty much, it's a
Mm-hmm.
vetting process.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think that the way that we approach what people will call platonic relationship, like men and women not even being able to cultivate friendship outside of like sex, do you think that that is affecting just how we approach even dating in general? And if you want to get into even the what we define as dating and what's wrong with that, please by all means do so.
Yeah.
But
But
do you
African
think
people don't date,
that's
but
that's why I said that? That's why I
yeah,
said
yeah.
I'm gonna let you
But
go. Take it. Go
but
ahead.
I'll let Nawasha jump in on that.
I think
Okay.
courting for a relationship is different from dating. So when we say dating, we're talking about harmonizing styles and doing the things that help you grow and stay connected. So that would be something that you do. Dating would be after you actually
Commitment.
make the commitment.
Mhm.
But I think that, for a lot of us, we don't have community. So the idea that there is value for someone in your life as a friend
Mhm.
is not something that we can even wrap our minds around. I think we have a really deep void that comes from a lot of trauma and the superficial level of reconnection. So, a sexual relationship or the idea of being even wanted or desired is so strong that we turn every complementary relationship and even the ones that are not complementary into something that's sexual. So I think that we will now have sex with our friends. We'll have, sex with inanimate objects. Like we're to the point where I think in the future, we will see this as a time of sexual dysfunction, not sexual empowerment. But I think that what happens is we don't know what it means to be a friend, and we don't actually see a person's value that they can actually exchange with us, and that is going to serve our life. We're looking to get something, and one of the quickest things that you can get is almost like, again, without delaying self gratification, you can get a quick fix off of the literal chemicals that go through your body when you're preparing for sex, having sex, and coming down from having sex. And I think just like any other drug or any other pacifier, we know it's going to work. And we have such a deep need and a void that we go to it pretty easy. So this is where you can turn a relationship that could have been platonic or it could have been about the community and sharing into something sexual. And then what happens is you end up losing your friend as well.
Yes, yes.
So you lose the potential for, this is where true accountability would come in. If you had a group of brothers slash cousins slash friends, right, that could tell you where you have some challenges, all solely for the love, not because they want to get anything from you. If we could have that as extended community, of course we would be better off, because we do still need, as a woman, a masculine perspective. We do still need, as men, to appreciate the feminine perspective, but that's not what we're doing. We want the masculine that we want for what we want it for. And we want the feminine for what we want, when we want it, and how we want it. And that's it. So that little bit that you can offer, it ends up being, I think, at that, like, if I could just shoot up with it, it's the quickest version, is the intimate sexual version, where we can say somebody wants me, needs me, and I'm about to have this exchange. And I think this is why sometimes right after sex, the relationship can be over, because when you realize, man, this is all this person can give me, you start to, for women, it comes across as, so what are we doing here? What are we actually doing in this relationship? Because once you get that, you realize that that's like that 20% of the relationship, and you don't have anything to talk about, and you don't actually agree on life, and you disagree in politics, and you don't have the same diet. None of the other things that would actually make you compatible are working. And I think that this is just, that it's hard to have a platonic relationship right now because of the dysfunction.
Okay.
But I do think in a natural community, we would have exchange with our brothers and sisters, the people who are coming up as our peers, that are in simultaneous initiation with us, would have been the people we would pull from, but also our the true sister wives, or brother husbands, that the person is just trying to support you and not trying to have sex with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Wireless Woman got another great one, man.
Let me
She
see
said
this one.
so many people acknowledge the effect of white supremacy on the Black community, but turn a blind eye to racism, sexy cousin, misogyny. The patriarchy is not just white men.
It's
And I
coming
would
from them.
I would agree, it is coming from them. So it doesn't
Yeah.
belong to anybody but them. And I would say the counterpart to that is not the opposition to it, but the counterpart is that the feminist idea is not just white women, but it definitely comes from them.
Yeah.
We, as African people, we reject misogyny and misandry. We reject toxic masculinity and feminism, because they are two sides of the same coin.
Same coin. Correct.
And so, we people acknowledge the effect. We were in Brooklyn with our good friend Zaza, right? Zaza Ali. We
Yes.
were in Brooklyn 2 weeks ago. What was it? 3 weeks ago?
Something like that.
And so we talking, and we're still hearing people say, I don't want to call it supreme, because it's not supreme. They're not, this shows we really don't understand. Francis Cress Welsing told us this is the name of the system.
Yes.
It doesn't, we don't believe they're supreme or whatever. If a Black person came here from another planet and never heard of this system, you would say, what is the system? Well, it makes everything white supreme, and it makes everything Black
Inferior.
inferior.
Mm-hmm.
That's the description of the system. That's why it's not white supremacy. It's the system of racism, white
Thank
supremacy,
you. Yep.
or the system of white supremacy racism. However, Neely Fuller and Francis Cresswell, they work both ways. It's the same thing, however you say it, right? And so we got to understand that, because the reason the gender war, I tell black people this all the time, the reason the gender war is so profound, because men want women to get along with them.
Mm.
And women want men to get along with them. So because we're not, we see each other better than we see ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So the women are talking about the dysfunction with the men, and the men are talking about the dysfunction with the women. So what I always say to the question, there is no gender war, because we are each other. We are not trying to get along with each other. We are literally each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't have a war with the female part of myself. It's like, and many families have this. We have dealt with this. I get along with my mom, but I don't get along with my dad. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? So what that means as a therapist, to me, you don't get along with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it means. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean somehow um, I hear a lot of brothers say my dad left, right? And he wasn't around.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have that reality. The community I grew up in, all the black families were together. Most of them still are together. I'm 52. A couple of couples are having their 56th anniversary and stuff like that. And everything wasn't perfect, but I grew up in a suburb that was mostly white.
Mm-hmm.
And so the few 300 black families that were together, they still together. About 10% of them, 7% of them divorced, and then a lot of them have died off. But for the most part, those friends and their children and grandchildren and so on, they all still together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no such thing as a parent abandoning you or abandoning their post as a parent, being dysfunctional in some way, and that not showing up in our lives. That doesn't mean you won't get married. That doesn't mean that you won't have success. I'm not suggesting that, but there's
Mm-hmm.
an effect. Every cause has an effect. If it rains, you get wet. Now there's days it rains and you don't get wet, but you've done certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you don't get wet, you still have to adjust that the world is wet right now where I'm at. So I got to adjust, and I can't do this and I can't do that until it dries up. And so I think that if we could look at ourselves as each other, there wouldn't be such a need to prove that one of us is more wrong than the other. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
because we're being fed a narrative by somebody else, and this is where the global system of racism, white supremacy has the greatest format it ever had to date, and that's
Mm-hmm.
social media. And it is using social media, and many people say they understand it, but do you understand the four stages of it? And do you understand the 11 or 12 or 9, whatever human areas of activity you want to say?
Mm-hmm.
Neely Fuller gave us 9.
Mm-hmm.
We added 2 with permission from them, and then Francis Cress Welding added another one with health. So some people say it's 12, some people say it's 11, some people say it's 9. But do you know the areas of human activity? And do you know that establishment, that maintenance, that growth, and that refinement? Because the refinement stage is the way in one generation is crack, in the next generation is sports, in the next generation is politics, in the next generation is business. Now it's health and wellness with COVID, or entertainment with social media. It's still refining and refine. It's the same system it always was since they came out the cave,
Yeah.
but it's being refined. And now you think, because I'm not on a plantation, the system is over. You don't really
Yes.
understand the system.
Yes.
You don't
Yes.
understand the system. And so, like that, when these people, I'm a therapist. I deal with people who kill people, and 85%, 90% of all killings are close relationships. I
Mm-hmm.
live in a community where a dear friend of mine let his brother come stay with him for a while. And his son and his brother got into an argument one day when he wasn't at home, and his son accidentally killed his brother in an argument. And the son had to go away and do 15 years. The brother is dead, and you feel like this shit is real. This not relationship Saturdays that people got on a podcast with somebody
Mm-hmm.
they care less what's going on. They
Mm-hmm.
don't mean harm. They're not bad people, but it's in vogue. Relationships is the new black.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody talking about relationships. 20 years ago, we was like, who's out here talking about relationships? It was like 3 people. And people was like, oh, man, and now that it's big time, everybody got a relationship podcast. And we
Yeah.
really have no answers for our people. We are dying. And the reason I want to say this last point, and then I'm
Mm-hmm.
done. What you said earlier about social media ruining our children, the reason that's happening is because they don't believe in us.
Yes.
I deal with a lot of children who say, I love my mom or I love my dad, but their life shows me they don't know shit about relationships. So the parent will bring the child to me and say, I'm putting the child in therapy because, they need some help. I notice things and da da da. When the door is closed and it's confidential and they get to talk about your ass,
Yes.
they know you don't know jack about relationship. Because Mr. Charlie, he just come over here and he dog my mom out. And I'll be seeing him across town with the other woman that he deal with. And my mom know it, but she don't know what to do. Or my dad dealing with this woman who treat him like, you know, or my mom and dad hate each other and they want me to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why social media is running our children, because we not.
That's
And
a good point.
so
Mm-hmm.
like that, we gotta look at this thing a little bit more holistically.
Mm-hmm.
And Black love culture is the way we believe. And we just, we honored to serve anybody who listening. You could get a free consultation. You don't gotta buy nothing from us. But we want to empower you with a couple of tools that you can start to think about and use from a different standpoint. And, if anything that we said tonight is traumatizing to anybody, you could do a one-on-one with me, and I'll have my therapist hat on, but you could do a one-on-one with me for free because I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to do more damage. I actually love Black people and I want Black people to be together. And for those that don't want to be together, I still want you to be happy. You have the right to not want to be with anybody. So you don't gotta, I ain't forcing you to be with nobody. If you happy, you really happy, cool. Then let's help everybody else get where you at. And so, that's just really what we're about. That's what our work is about, our life mission, our Shai, our purpose, our destiny, individually and collectively. That's what
Mm-hmm.
we're about. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that we can help someone who's looking for help if they want it. That's it.
I know you guys got to go because I know we're way over our time, but I just have one more thing.
Yes.
So on your list of qualifiers, you have which I agree with. They have to. You didn't say love Black people. You said they have to really love Black people.
Yes. Because
So
Black people crazy as hell, and it's a greater love to serve them. So
yes,
you got to really love them.
thank you for that. I needed to hear that. But I wanted to also ask in that number two, really love Black people. Um, how do we how do we discern that? How do we know that someone is just not? Because one example that comes to mind is, and this is, I don't know how this is going to be taken, but this is just me from my observation. There are people who are giving out relationship advice specifically to Black women right now, and their solution to our issue is divestment,
Mm-hmm.
which is divest from Black men,
Mm-hmm.
which is the promotion of interracial relationships. It is
Mm-hmm.
they have the movement of SY, Save Yourself Black Men, and then they
Mm-hmm.
have the movement of Save Yourself Black Women.
Mm-hmm.
And these things to me are borderline genocidal. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, they
And
are.
so for me, right. And so for me, my thing is that you cannot on one hand say you love Black people, um and then on the other hand say divest from Black people, like
Right.
you're not even encouraging the continuation of the Black family. So I feel like that's one telltale sign. Do you have any others? And just before you answer, I put the link in and it keeps saying that she's not able to get on the link.
Did we
But I
not put the www there? That's what we didn't do on the first one. But which link can't you get on?
put
It's
all
a
of them.
link. I don't know.
It's
It's just a
i'm
short
gonna I'm gonna put Akoma in again.
Did you just try
um
them? They all operative, right?
yeah, she said it
But yeah,
might be her, but
mhm.
just wanted me to know.
Let me see.
Um,
Thank you for letting us know that.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm gonna put it in again. So, all right. I just put it in. Oh, no, sorry. I'm putting it in now. Sorry. I thought I pressed send. There it is. AcomaHouseInitiative.com. You guys can also try that site as well.
yeah, the
Okay.
Black Love School is coming up. A Coleman House Initiative is
So
coming up.
it might be NA. NA might be on your end, sweetie.
Yeah,
People don't
But
like it.
I just wanted to put that out there before you guys leave
yeah.
that.
I think I agree with you 100%. So the
Mm-hmm,
first sign is if they saying that, you know they don't love black people.
mm-hmm,
They want a license to deal with white people. That's what it comes down to. Like it ain't
mm-hmm,
even a whole bunch of other people because a lot of people that we call in other are actually black people anyway.
mm-hmm.
But they want to deal with white people. They want to be accepted by white people. You will never hear Asian, white, or others say that. Why is that? You know, that I think that's an interesting thing. Um, we have to accept this. We are not the symbol of a good catch to anyone but ourselves, right? We will I saw a white girl by all definitions, what would be called an attractive young white girl, say she is in love with what's my man name? Um, um, not Lil Yachty, little
Is it
oh,
little baby?
not Little Baby, the one that got the like he had a little Bantu knots, the little he got the
I know the one. I don't know his name,
Kodak
but I know
Black.
who you. Uh,
Is that his name?
what's
Kodak
his?
Black?
I don't know that. I don't know
Kodak.
these
I
people.
think I think that's his name, Kodak. But
Mm-hmm,
anyway, I'm like, cut it out. Like, cut it out. You know. So I think that another thing that we see is if your solutions don't equally look to bring us together in responsibility, we have a thing that we says that we say guilt slash blame versus responsibility.
mm-hmm.
Guilt is when you think I'm so wrong, and you're never so wrong by yourself.
Okay.
And then blame is when you think, you know, we would still be together if it wasn't for XYZ. The
Okay.
other person isn't all to blame by themselves. Black people love each other when they come together. I was telling this couple this today, this brother who called it, we were promoting our communication product. That's a 6-week product about intimate communication. So we were calling clients who's reached out to us in the last 6 months saying that communication was their biggest issue, letting them know we're going to do a launch of this. And man, it turned into like 8 instant sessions. People are hurting out there, right? And so I said this to this brother: you should be able to rationalize that what the problem is that you don't have skills, because if you really had the answer and your wife didn't, your wife who you chose and married, you mean tell me you wouldn't give her the answer? You wouldn't share it with her if you really had the answer? And
Mm-hmm,
I'd say the same thing to black women. The reason we're not sharing the answer is because we don't have it. If
mm-hmm,
we had it, we would actually share it. So, in the absence of facing that problem, we have what Nawasha terms the safer problem to have, which is something's wrong with this partner.
mm-hmm,
But the reality is, the partner is a part of the relationship.
mm-hmm.
So, something's wrong with the relationship. And so I think if a person, one of the qualifiers to show a person really loves black people is that they're looking for emotional responsibility and not blame or guilt, they're definitely saying that we're better off together. When a person is saying we're at our best when we're together,
Mm-hmm.
and these things that I listed, be clear, you can look them up. They're statistical facts. Black men live 8 to 10 years longer when they're mated.
Mm-hmm.
We make $100,000 to $300,000 more over the trajectory of our working when we have a partner,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have a better quality of health, and we have the best chance of seeing racism, white supremacy in education when we raise the children, in entertainment when we go to shows and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
um, in economics, when the money disparities, redlining, fashion, food, label. Every man who's made it is like trying to protect his woman because his role is to provide, not just materially, but spiritually, emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
and socially, to provide, protect,
Protect. Mm-hmm.
and prophesy.
Mm-hmm.
Her job is to nourish, neutralize, and nurture. They're really the same three things, but one is a feminine version of those three things and the other is a masculine
Mm-hmm.
version. So when we come together, we see education, economics, entertainment, fashion, food, labor, law, health, politics, religion, sex, and war from a unified lens. So when a person really loves black people, now this is the last thing. When you hear this, this ain't propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
We're the parent people of humanity and we have no equal.
Mm.
We have no equal. When you hear a person saying that, white people and others will try to jump on and say that's propaganda and that's supremacy talk, but it's actual fact.
Mm-hmm.
Genetically, biologically, historically, socially, politically, in terms of wealth, 95% of the world's wealth comes from Africa. How are we
Mm-hmm.
going to say Africa is equal to the rest of the world? It's not.
You're right.
It's not in its material resources and it's not in its attacks. Nobody gets more attacked than us. Nobody has more resources than us. You wouldn't even have a cell phone without the coltan that's coming from the Congo and computers and many other that stuff don't it's nowhere else. You can't get it from nowhere else. So how could we say all things are equal? How could we be here for trillions of years and a group of people be here for 6,000 years and we equal? How, if
Mm-hmm.
we know the Punnett square and the biological dominance of the dominant gene over the recessive gene, can we say we equal? We're
Mm-hmm.
only saying that because of our current position, and
Mm-hmm.
we don't know our history, we
Mm-hmm.
don't know this system, and we don't see a way out. So we're pretending. How could white people who have been miseducated by their leaders believe we're really equal to them? We last in everything and they're dominating us. How could they
Mm-hmm.
really look at us and say, we actually equal? When you hear
Mm-hmm.
somebody saying that, you know they're lying. We
Mm-hmm.
all know it. And so when
That's
a
true.
person says
Mm-hmm.
black people are the parent people of humanity and the whole world won't come back together until black people get together first, something Dr. Africa used to tell us, right? Anything that works for us works for everybody else automatically because we're the highest version of humanity. You got
Mm-hmm.
to have a lot of intestinal fortitude to come before people and say that. I say that in front of white people and black
Mm-hmm.
people alike, and I can back it up in a lot
Mm-hmm.
of different ways. So we're pretending to be equal when the evidence is antithetical to that. The evidence is that we're not equal at all in any way, but we want to say that because that's politically correct. And even more than politically correct, it assuages our fear of the system that is oppressing us. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't have that fear because I'm afraid of a lot of things.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to say is, like Frances Cress Welsing said, who we've been quoting her work a lot without giving her, you mentioned her name, but I
Mm-hmm.
know that you know. So for
Mm-hmm.
those who don't know, the luminary forensic psychiatrist, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, the author of the Cress theory of color confrontation, which later became the luminary work, the ISIS papers,
Yeah.
which is a must read in every black person's top 10 must read in every person's black library. She said, black people afraid, but we're going to have to face our fears.
Yeah.
We're afraid of this system, but we're going to have to face that fear because it's killing
Mm-hmm.
us anyway. And
Yeah.
so when we stand up and face that fear, we will be better off. So look for a person who's saying, if you want to talk about equal, now you should be saying black men and women are equal. We got different roles, but we're equal, and none of us exist without the other. We're better together. We're the parent people of humanity. And now we talk about this fake dating down because somebody cuter than somebody or somebody got more money. Real dating down is interracial dating. That's the real dating down. Why would a black person who's the parent people of humanity who possess all the mitochondrial DNA and all the downloads of eternity, decide I'm going to go with these artificial, whatever they are, these people these new races who just got here, who are, by their track record, the most psycho people that have ever existed in the history of the world.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason you're doing that is because right now they dominating you.
So I missed one thing, and then I'm gonna close out.
I don't know where to watch.
Michelle or whatever your name is, I see your comments, but sis, if you're with the divestor movement, this is not that type of conversation. The type of conversation we're trying to have here in this moment is about building
Yeah,
with
that's
black men and
cool.
black women. But if you feel like black men are a threat, which is the talking point among divestors, that black men is the number one threat to black women right now, and you have all the stats and so forth, 4.8 hours black men are. It's not that type of conversation. And so, Manso, I don't even want you to respond to it.
Yeah, I'm not going to say nothing to that. That's
Yeah, so
peace.
I'm
That's
gonna
peace.
let
I
I'm just
deal with those people all the time. That's peace.
yeah. And
I
so
would I would just ask her, why is she here having that conversation?
correct, correct, and that's what my
Yeah,
good sis, my aunt would ask. That is
yeah,
her favorite question.
yeah.
Why
Why
are you
are you
here?
here?
Right. If you feel
You
that
you
strong,
know that
yeah,
that's not this conversation. You know it. That's why you
yeah,
posted
yeah.
like 8 things in a row.
Yeah, and
Peace to
it
you.
right before I brought you guys on, I've had some other conversations, and
Mhm.
it's like trying to like work with people in the space have been proven to be very frustrating for me.
And that's why you got to really love black people because they will drive you insane.
Yeah, and so for me, I'm just like I'm taking a different direction.
Right.
And I'm just gonna bring black people on the platform who is doing the work that I know is really doing the work, and put them up before the people, and the people that want help is gonna connect to these black folks and build with them, and that's it. That's what I'm gonna use the space for going forward. But one last thing I wanted to ask: you mentioned for the masculine, for men provide, protect, prophesy, and for women, you said we nourish, neutralize, and what was the third one?
Nurture. Actually, nurture is first.
Nurture.
Hmm.
Uh,
Nourish and neutralize.
okay, got it.
So
Nourish.
neutralization is a form of protection because for all black men who have women, she is able to neutralize all those stressors that are around you. And
Mm-hmm,
in that way, she protects you. She
mm-hmm,
also nourishes you through food and through emotional support. And then she nurtures those things that you provide. In other words, she transforms it into something else, something greater, something higher.
mm-hmm.
And so
Alchemy. Mm-hmm,
the same way she takes in your seed and gives you back
mm-hmm,
a human being,
mm-hmm,
she nurtures your ideas and gives you back a more complete vision of yourself. And
mm-hmm,
so the man provides spiritual, physical, material, emotional value. Then he protects, uses his physical mass to defend and protect you in spaces, even when he's sensitive and balanced enough. He often will protect you from you and
mm-hmm,
protect you from himself. Um, and then finally, he prophesies. He creates the vision that she nurtures and that
mm-hmm,
she brings to life. So he talks about an idea. A lot of men have ideas that they have said to their brothers for years. And
mm-hmm,
and they would say, "Oh man, that's great. That's great." They talk to a woman, she go get the LLC, she do all this stuff. Like in like 3 weeks, you got this business.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
With the brothers. And that happened for me for a coma day. I actually had a coma day 3 years before I met Nawasha, and I was having dinner with Khalid Abdul Muhammad, and I'm
mm-hmm,
telling him about this idea, and he's the first national figure that said, "This is phenomenal. You should do it, Mancho." And da-da-da-da. I have been hearing this from so many people. This idea you have is phenomenal, but I just didn't do it. Like I was stuck in my own imagination or whatever. I gave it to Nawasha, and it was like boom, 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 boom. She came up with all of this stuff, and then boom, Akoma Day was born in its current incarnation in 2000, 2001,
Hmm.
even though I created it in 1996, 97. And so, you know, we need each other. We are
Yeah.
each other. We are the better. Remember when we used to say, "This is my better half. This is my other
Yes.
half."
Hmm.
Now we like they crazy, men crazy, women crazy. We going
Okay.
backwards.
So I'm gonna go ahead and close out.
Yes,
Do
thank
you
you
have
so
any
much.
closing remarks
Yes,
for
I want to
anyone?
thank you and salute you for continuing to bring quality programming to our people. It's very challenging.
Hmm.
It takes a greater love,
Hmm.
and I can see that all around you.
Hmm.
I want to see somebody as beautiful as you are with your beautiful head that I love to see and your smile and eyes that go so well in harmony. I
Hmm.
want to see all my name literally means black love. That's what it
Hmm.
means. Our last name means love.
Hmm.
Mancho means black. It's a Szechuana word. Um, I just want to see black people love themselves and love each other
Hmm.
in whatever kind of relationships we have,
Yeah.
friendships, elders, like man, the elders to children, that's a whole nother program. um I just brother to brother, sister to sister, because sisters say something that men don't say. This, I'm telling, this the therapist in me talking. Black women never tell a man. I don't even do females like that. I don't have a lot of female friends. You will never hear a man say that.
Hmm.
I don't have male friends. Like,
Mm.
we need each other to survive, and black men know that. Even though we crazy as hell and we kill each other and y'all at a great rate, we
Hmm.
never say we don't need to be with each other. But
Hmm.
sisters are parroting the misogynistic narrative of white men who say black women are bitches and they hard to get along with. We
Yeah.
have internalized that nobody's harder for black women to get along with than white men.
Hmm.
And black men are like I did. I've been in every prison in my state. We kill more women. Women ain't running around killing a whole bunch of black men.
No.
It
Nope.
happens, but they ain't raping black men and all that.
Nope.
That's us doing that to y'all. But y'all will sit in front of a man and say, "I don't really do women like that. They too catty. They too chaotic." Cut that out. You
That's a
know,
good
we
point. Hmm.
got to heal our relationships for real. And so that's what I say. Thank you so much for having us. I'm trying to talk to Nawasha and make it back. Our children had an issue upstairs. She ran
It's
upstairs.
okay. It's okay.
Mommy doing the job. You know what I mean? So
Thank you so
I
much,
think this is
Munch.
her, right? Oh no, that's not her. That's my daughter.
Thank you guys so much. And one of the things I want to say is that I really honor you guys. I have a lot of respect for you. When people
Thank you so
ask
much.
me, I've had inboxes from people where they'll say, "Do you know anyone that we could talk?" You, hey,
Nobody.
princess. I usually refer them to you guys,
Yes.
and I thank you guys for always making yourself available to me. When I call, you guys come, and I so appreciate that because I know you guys are busy people. So
Six
I just
children and a business,
I
and
know.
Nawash is a professor, but like minds connect, and we
Yes,
respect you. Whenever you call, we're going to make ourselves available. I'm just picking up the phone saying, "What am I saying yes to? Just let me know what
yes,
it is." So
yes.
we appreciate you.
So thank you, and to the chat, thank you guys for your
Yeah,
engagement. You
thank you
guys
so much.
asked a
Great
lot
chat.
of
Great
questions.
chat.
Yes, hi. And so I'm
And
gonna go ahead and say peace and blessings and enjoy you guys' weekend. Thanks again,
yes, same
Mancho.
to you. Neon Conga
Okay.
to everybody. Please hit us up for a free consultation. Thank you all.
Yes. I'm gonna
All
put it
right,
in the
no doubt.
chat one more time. Have a good one, Mancho.
All right.
Bye bye. All right, guys. Thank you guys for being here and sticking it out with us. I hope that you guys was able to get something from the conversation. Be prepared. My channel is probably gonna begin to go in a very different direction. These days. Very good one though. I'm gonna try to bring a lot more people from the community who are really doing the work. Where we can have these conversations with them directly through the platform. So I enjoyed tonight because you guys really engaged. You guys asked questions, even though I didn't get to do the open panel. I really wanted to allow Nwasha and Mansha to really talk. So I didn't want to do the open panel, or else we would have been here for 6 hours, y'all. And so I'm going to do more of that for the rest of this month. And so you guys could continue to engage the guests through the chat. through the chats. I may do one where I allow whoever want to come up to stage to actually have a direct conversation. But stay tuned for all the changes that are about to come. I appreciate you guys for sticking it out here with us. And until next time, which will be Monday at 6 p.m., we have another guest who is going to be talking about changing the narrative between Black men and Black women, particularly on social media. So make sure you guys tune in to have that conversation as well. And until next time, enjoy your weekends and please, peace and blessings. Bye, guys.